Okay. All right. Hi, it's me. Welcome back. Hear me out. Hey, it's me. Welcome back. Hear me out. Hi, it's me. Hi. Tyranny under like a polite king or queen who doesn't let you starve that often. Like we don't have to do it exactly like it was. We could modernize. We don't fuck you. Damn it. It could definitely work probably. Oh, kings and queens. They've had a You know, I probably should have known once I started recording video episodes that intros were going to be so fucking awkward. But like I did not realize how awkward. I've been sitting in this exact room. I've sat in every single one of these chairs. Bam, 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 bam. Sat straight on this desk here, right there. I've sat all across the room. I've laid down. I've tried to find a way to read out this little script I wrote where it doesn't feel awkward as hell, and I can't do it. I'm not, I am a much worse actor than I thought, and this experience has been very humbling. I don't know. Maybe I was never meant to script the episodes. Maybe I've been doing too much. Because here's the thing, my conversations not super scripted. Like I obviously have topics at hand. Like I'm not a fucking unprofessional, but like everything I say, like they're my own thoughts, and I might ponder it for a bit beforehand. But it's genuine conversation. A lot of it is in the moment. But every time I write these intros, y'all, I've scripted the entire thing, and I sound so awkward, don't I? Like it's so unnatural. I was having a conversation with a friend about this a little bit ago. Like I sound like a dork. Like it's like Disney Channel level voice acting, and you can tell so easily. Cause like I probably sound a little awkward right now, and I know my left eye does this weird twitchy thing, and I don't know why I do that. But it's so hard to fake emotion. I think that's been one of the most fun things about this process, really, is it is disgustingly difficult to fake an emotion and to feign compassion. It's icky. I don't know. The thing I really like about starting long-term projects in general, whatever it may be, is there is going to be a series of failures that you're going to encounter in literally anything that you attempt to become good at. And it's so fun to watch yourself progress and to be it's fun to get embarrassed of the stuff you've done in the past. I don't know if that makes sense, but like it's so nice to look at the things that I've done, and like I know that was the best I could do in that moment, and I know I can do better now. And it's all up from here. I hope. It might not all be up from here. I could get worse. I could easily get worse. I'm rambling. I like rambling. But today I have much more interesting rambling with my guest. So I think I'm going to send you over to him. Welcome back to the 280, y'all. I really appreciate those of you that watch this with me. You don't watch it with me. That's dumb. You're watching it by yourself. I thank you for being here. Do you prefer books or movies? Very lighthearted, very easy, very kind of boring, but just
movies.
Why? And is it like movies? Like in all cases, I prefer movies.
No, sometimes I like the book. Here's the thing: if you're asking me between books and movies, then it's really between if the movie is based on the book. Because in that case, I always like to read the book first if I can, and usually the book will be better because there's more you can do with a book. Like Dune, for example, the new one by Denis Villeneuve. I loved it. Watching it, it was like
that shit was nice. I really enjoyed that. I'm not gonna lie.
It was like Harry Potter fans when they watched Deathly Hallows when it came out in like what, I don't know when, but like
that being said, I watched it straight to streaming on my iPhone in the shower. No, I'm kidding. No. I watched it. I didn't get to watch it in a movie theater though, and I really regret that because I know it would have been incredible. I had to watch it on my TV. Just
I watched
in my
it
bed.
in the movie theater. The sound was amazing, but I was watching it with my friends Brigham and Lincoln. Mm-hmm. Now Brigham, I like to think he was like our focus group, or like a sample group. Like he was just a casual moviegoer, all that. Lincoln, media major, made me the cinephile I am today in Syracuse, New York, right now. For film school. Amazing guy.
See, I feel like I'm kind of a combo because I very much obsess about movies and like older actors and shit, but I don't give a shit to the extent that like I'm watching like black and white Honduran films about war.
Oh
you know
my
what
God.
I mean?
Oh, you're missing out. Do you watch anything by Akira Kurosawa?
Is that specifically? Did you just pull up like a Honduran director just out of your ass?
No, he's Japanese, man.
Okay.
Seven Samurai, Yojimbo, Throne of Blood.
I've heard of Seven Samurai.
Oh, everybody's heard of Seven Samurai.
Yeah, that's a fucking classic.
Yeah, well, that, but also like Yojimbo. I think he did. Did he do Lone Cub and Wolf, or Lone Wolf and Cub? Fuck, I forget.
I'm gonna say yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna err on the caution and say yeah. But like those, oh, it's beautiful. I love it.
I do like pretty movies. I feel like if you're boring and pretty, it's not enough to make up for it. And I think that's the difference between me and a cinephile.
I forget what the name of it is. And it's semi-popular, and I feel like an idiot for forgetting the name. But it's this old Swedish film about a knight who plays chess with death. And the whole movie's like this big treatise on like
it's a single chess game?
Like basically the knight gets confronted by death, and he's like, wait, let me play a game for my soul. And he knows he's going to lose, so he's just drawing it out by talking most of the time. But he basically is... the whole movie is basically as like, why is God silent to the plight of man? And he's kind of seeking like, was like the Crusades justified? Like what I did, was it right?
So lighthearted.
Well, I have absolution. Oh yeah, absolutely lighthearted. But no, but back to the movies and books thing. Mm-hmm. So watching Dune, I was like a kid in a candy store. Seeing all the different adaptations and like ways they did things like the Hunter Seeker drone, or the way they did the Fremen and the way they did the worms. I loved all that, and so I could do that. Lincoln was looking more at he didn't really understand. Because it doesn't help because the movie, he's making a second one, Denis Villeneuve, because he split the book in half. But it's just, I guess I had more of an appreciation and love for it because I understood what was happening. They'd look at me and go like, why is technology so like regressive? Why do they have like using swords and shields and dart guns?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, you see, there's a story behind that, and it makes sense. The later writers after Frank Herbert kind of misconstrued it. But No, there's, like, so much reason why like, everything in Dune, even the fantastical stuff, if it's its own pseudoscientific, metaphysical junk even then, it has its reason,
Yeah.
and it has a purpose, and I like that. I also just like Denis Villeneuve, his take on things is super cool because he's admitted that his favorite color is black, and looking at the movie, there's a lot of muted colors,
Mm-hmm.
but each one stands out, like the Harkonnens, like the soldiers there with, like, their dome helmets and their complete black aesthetic. He said in an interview they look very bug-like, and so they're supposed to give you that sense of unease, like, their helmets are like bug eyes, and their ships, if you see them in that one scene,
Mm-hmm.
are very bulbous and, like, almost H.R. Geiger looking, and it's just a whole thing, and I love the
I
aesthetics.
feel like the eyes were way more unsettling to me. Those piercing blue. And I know
Yeah,
that makes me a hypocrite.
the eyes of a
I
bod.
hope that's how other people see me. They see me as some freaky looking like alien type of bitch boy.
Hey, I get complimented on my eyes all the time.
I do too. It's like it's easily my best feature. It's
Same
the
here.
only one that I like. I don't have to question.
I've gotten compliments from, like, random, cashiers at a Whataburger at, like, midnight going, "You have very pretty eyes," and I'm like, "Aw, thanks."
I think the thing about enjoying the particular like purposeful aspects of a film is really interesting because I am the exact opposite. I love when people will put random things into film just because they like them, or media that is random just because the purpose of it is more the emotion rather than the story it tells, like an Adventure Time style storytelling, or
Have
like
you seen
those type of psychedelic ones like
have you seen
Midnight
Mandy?
Gospel-y. I don't think I have.
Oh my god, you would love Mandy because everything you're describing, Mandy, and another film. Fuck, I forget the director. Can you look it up real quick?
Which one? Mandy or
Mandy, but also Over the Black Rainbow.
these mics are so hot. I can hear my clapping.
Yes, sir.
Is it Beyond the Black Rainbow or
Beyond the
Over?
Black Rainbow, my bad.
Science fiction horror. What is this?
What's the director's name?
I don't. Okay. I don't know if I know how to say that. It's like Panos Cosmatos.
Panos Cosmatos. I think that is how you pronounce it, yeah, but he's an amazing director. He made the film Mandy. It has Nick Cage in it. But the whole thing is like the whole premise behind
I'm gonna be
Mandy.
honest. You got me at Nick Cage. It sounds familiar now that you're saying it. I feel like
It's
I feel like it's something that I've come across before and it just didn't stick in my psyche.
it's basically Nick Cage plays this guy in like 1980s Virginia or like that somewhere in Appalachia, but he basically goes on a revenge quest to avenge his wife from like this evil cult. But like the whole thing is super psychedelic and trippy. Um, but there's also a lot of like classic metal album cover views and like psychedelic stuff. Like you have demon bikers in all black armor and leather that takes super acid that makes the whole world look like
They didn't even film the
a
movie.
power metal album.
They just plugged a video camera inside of Nick Cage's head,
No, and
stuck
like
it into his ear, and
he has
streamed.
and he has this big chrome axe called the Beast. And the whole thing is just like a power metal album cover.
Is it kind of like Dark Souls-y, Elden Ringy?
A bit, but it's and like he has like a chainsaw. Oh god, oh my! I shake the table. Ooh, but no, he has like a chainsaw duel with a guy, and like he
Mm-hmm.
has this thing where he goes and frees a tiger, and it like
Just
poses
because?
near the moon just because.
Okay, yeah, I would like that. I might watch that. Oh, I can't watch that tonight. I have to work overnight
Oh
tonight.
god,
It's
watch it
a
on Amazon.
long ass day today. I had a
Or
final
if you're the type of
exam.
person that
Ooh.
doesn't like big corporations, you can always pirate it on Pirate Bay.
I don't, but I don't want to pirate just because it's always lower quality. No.
Depends where you're looking.
You know, that's fair. I've never really tried to pirate. I've never been like a Soap Today type of dude, you know?
I've pirated a few times and it was varying quality. Sometimes it was amazing. Sometimes it was garbage.
See, I don't want to risk the garbage because I always get super excited when I'm about to watch a movie like that, especially something that I'm seeking out enough that I'm looking it up on another website. And I don't know if I want to put myself through that.
You
Because
know
I'm always teetering on the edge anyways, and I'd ruin my own fucking night.
you know what movie I haven't seen? And I want to. The
Hmm.
Tragedy of Macbeth, the one with Denzel Washington, all black and white.
They had Denzel Washington and Macbeth.
Yes. And it's so good. And he plays Macbeth, but it's all black and white and it's super surreal. And it still does the play, but when they speak their lines, they say it like they're just talking normally. It's like Shakespearean Elizabethan English spoken normally.
Oh, so basically exactly like the Romeo and Juliet with Leonardo DiCaprio. That's what I'm hearing.
A bit like, yeah.
Like that type of vibe.
Yeah, but it's like black and white, limited aspect ratio, abstract architecture, and the way things are. But his performance, Denzel Washington,
So
is
it's like
just
Macbeth but French.
fuck. I'm sorry, French people. A black and white film of a slightly depressed but handsome-looking guy smoking a cigarette is not a movie.
That's French as fuck.
That's also a Family Guy joke.
Okay, it is a movie sometimes. They pull it off sometimes, but it
The only thing the French
it
pull
applies
off is their own egos.
it applies exclusively to the Audrey Hepburn looking types. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
you need a
fair.
very type of sophisticated cigarette guzzling woman to pull off that style of depressing.
I wouldn't call cigarette guzzling
Gothic.
sophisticated.
That's so sophisticated.
You
When
know,
pretty people do
pipes
it,
are sophisticated. Tolkien was sophisticated.
anything sophisticated, pretty people do it.
Well, what's pretty?
Audrey Hepburn looking motherfuckers.
I don't know, man. Audrey Hepburn, not my type.
She's cute. Speaking of not your type, we touched on video games for a little bit, and I wanted to address this because you mentioned an opinion that was just wrong.
Oh, fuck you.
Last of Us 2 was better than Last of Us 1. It just was. It was a better story.
And to those people we say, kids, eat shit and die.
It was so much better.
No, it wasn't.
Yes, it was.
It jerked off. Okay, no. And I'll go off on this, and I'll say this.
Okay.
I hated it because it didn't know what it wanted to say, and when it did say it was a hypocrite the entire time. It constantly bashes Ellie for her revenge quest, but strokes off Abby so hard for her revenge quest. I'm sorry, I'm not liking Abby. I don't care how much you try to say.
Well, Abby was clearly established as the dommy mommy of the video game.
If the whole
she gets to do whatever
I
she
can
wants.
get the meme value, but if you legitimately make a defense of Abby as a legitimately good character, you can suck my nuts.
She is the primordial girl boss. That motherfucker was jacked. She was
I have
driven.
a better ending. I have a better way that could have ended. And I could rewrite the ending where it makes sense, actually talks about the cycle of vengeance being broken, and, actually gives it meaning.
I think it's better that the cycle of vengeance wasn't broken.
It was broken, but it was done in a stupid way.
Not really. It delved into the aftermath of refusing to break it. It's because Ellie essentially submitted to that desire to seek out vengeance, and she ended up losing her. I mean, symbolically, she ended up essentially losing her connection.
At the end of the game, she lets Abby go. So she lets go, but the way to get there, I feel like could have been done better.
Well, she lost her connection to Joel symbolically in the first place. That's her trying to play the guitar, and she can't anymore because she had her fingers ripped off in Abby's mouth.
Well, it's ended, but it still has consequences. So it shows that, yeah, she ended the cycle of vengeance, but it's not just going to fix everything else. So she did end it, but there's still consequences of what happened.
Yeah.
All right, but I have a better ending.
Yeah, that's the point.
I have a better way it could have been done, though. To truly show, and I don't credit this idea entirely. There's a YouTuber called the Almighty Lolly on YouTube. Good guy, I love him. But he does like a bunch of video reviews. He's super funny. He did like a long series over the Berserk saga, my favorite manga. But basically, the way he talks about it is what they should have done is Ellie goes and hunts down the people, but every time she gets there, they're gone. And they're just gone. And she gets more and more angry, and Dina's trying to calm her down. Same thing with Abby. She's just trying to go, and all her friends keep disappearing. And eventually get to the aquarium, same thing happens. Tommy comes in, but he tells her to leave the map. Just leave it there intentionally. Don't drop it mistakenly. And they take Mel and Owen. They don't kill them, they take them. And so Abby goes back to the aquarium, sees this shit, and Lev says, hey, this is looking suspicious. Why are they gone? And the map to where they are is just right here. And then, but Abby's blinded by anger and goes anyway. And here's where it really changes up, the theater. So at the theater, Lev and Abby go in. Abby gets in a snare trap. She doesn't do the thing. She gets in a snare trap and she's stuck. Jesse comes in, knocks Lev the fuck out. They both wake up and they're tied to seats with all of Abby's friends up on the stage.
Kinky.
And the whole thing is, Tommy did this. Tommy and Jesse masterminded this. Now, Ellie is here in this corner with Dina, trying not to just run up and shoot Abby in the fucking face.
Sure.
And Tommy's like, I didn't tell you this because you would have been too angry, and that anger would have clouded your judgment. And it would have prevented me to be able to do all this. And so he says, you can do this and you can join, but you have to calm down. And Ellie's like, I'm calm, but he tells he isn't, so he just says, go now, and like, leave, don't watch this, but don't participate at all. And basically this whole ending is to show, this whole process is to show that Abby and Ellie, like, while they're violent, they're angry violent. They're thrashing around, screaming, yelling. But Tommy is like Joel in the first game. He's cold, methodical. While Abby and Ellie pretend to be scary monsters, Tommy is completely detached. And another thing could be Jesse. Jesse is completely compliant with this. All his humorous sense is gone. And Ellie's seeing this entire side of her goofy, fun friend that's just completely brutal. So then Tommy has Jesse go down the line and he talks about living on the road with Joel, what it was like to see Sarah die. And he like goes over all this, tormenting Abby while he goes down the line and like kills all Abby's friends individually. Tommy was completely in control the entire time. This was his revenge all along. And so he does that. Now when he gets to Mel and Owen, it could be he could kill them or not. And it could be either the descent into darkness or letting them go. If he lets them go, it would have to require Mel and Owen to basically just lambast Abby, say that she's responsible for everything, she got them involved and she got them killed and they hate her, or Tommy could kill him. But regardless, by the end, Abby is psychologically broken, with the key left just out of reach, and Tommy says, fuck you, and they leave. And what happens is eventually, of course, because they're game protagonists, they break out, and Lev and Abby, and you could even have a moment where Lev kind of just gets onto Abby like, what the fuck happened? And then kind of also lambasts Abby for her bullshit. And then when Abby immediately tries to think, okay, well, now we're going to get him back, Lev plays voice of reason and goes, he did that in our territory. What the fuck do you think is going to happen when we go to their territory, to Jackson? What do you think's going to happen then? And that's when Abby decides, fuck it, and leaves, because she just lost everything. And it would have been very poignant because it shows that neither Ellie nor Abby are either in control. And then when they leave, Ellie and Dina, they go and like live, but their relationship is a lot colder. It's nowhere near as their little house on the prairie, cozy cottage bullshit. Like, they were majorly fucked up. And when Jesse comes around, tried to be all like, hey guys, what's up? It's like, and goes back to his goofy self because he compartmentalized and completely detached himself from that. And he comes back to being goofy. Dean and Ellie just can't see him as the same again. Now you can have a similar thing. Now the ending you can keep. Abby and Lev go look for Firefly's remnants, get captured by the slavers. Ellie goes and save them. Yada, yada, yada. That can be the same. But the whole thing is, it should have shown that neither Abby nor Ellie really were ever in control. And it finally gets on to Abby for like, hey, you fucked up. You pursued revenge, and this is what you're getting for it. Ellie gets that just as much by losing her fingers and basically succumbing to rage, but it's like Abby also gets that, which was sorely missed in the actual game, where Abby, it's like, yeah, she got captured by slavers at one point, but really, like, that's it. There's no real punishment for her. She instigated this, and I won't feel bad for her when things come crashing down. The whole thing that killed her point of any sort of, well, she's actually the good guy, is when she's about to kill Dina and Ellie's like, oh, please don't. And in the game she goes, good. And this is the person you played for us for hours that Neil Druckmann was desperately trying to be like, no, but this is the good person of the game. I don't buy it.
I don't think there was a good person of the game. That's the point. When you remove that final battle and you remove that
No, don't remove
that
the final battle.
No, when you remove that blowdown and that anguish and the aftermath of her losing her fingers, you lose the point of Abby wasn't it's important to remember that even though you spend a lot of time playing as Abby is not the main character. It is not Abby's story. You have that journey as Abby because you're going on a parallel journey that's kind of Ellie-esque to get you into that mindset of, oh, this was just done the exact same way. And it's revealing that the main character was not, in fact, good. Like, that was the entire point. The entire point of Abby wasn't, oh, here's my two main characters. It's good versus evil. It's here's the two main characters. They parallel each other. This is why what Ellie did was wrong, and this is why she's not gonna get satisfaction from this because this is already what happened.
Same, but there's never a moment where that happens to Abby. Not really. The only person.
She's not the main character. That's not the point. Abby is only there to fulfill Ellie's storyline.
If she's a main character because you play so much with her. It's like.
She's
like you don't play
antagonist, but the story is not about Abby because nobody cares about Abby. That's the worst. Playing as her.
If the story's not about Abby, then there wouldn't be like an 8-hour section of just her.
Parallel. You're setting up the parallel because you're going through and you're doing the exact same thing.
She's still a protagonist, a point of view. She's not the hero, and she's not the main character, but she is a protagonist or deuteragonist.
It's that surreal experience of going through the exact same type of fucked up bullshit that you did in the first game, but you're doing it with a character that you don't care about, so you're finally seeing it for what it was. That's the point of it. You know what I mean?
The game tried to redeem Abby so much. I'm just going to leave it at that and say that she never got her comeuppance, and the few times where people tried to call her out and be like, hey, you fucked up, she immediately gets rebuffed by another character going, no, you're such a good person, you're changing. I'm sorry, it's canonical that it's also the scars are kind of stupid. It's like the only way to show that the WLF are super cool is to have them fight these one-dimensional bad guys. I know they betray her later on. I don't give a shit about that. But the only way to show that they're better is to have these one-sided backwards Luddite cultists to show how progressive they are. I'm sorry, it's canonical that Abby killed children, and Abby's a war criminal.
Yeah, I genuinely think...
And nobody, not even Lev, who's been indoctrinated for years, says a fucking thing about it.
Yeah.
Never once is the limelight on Abby like, you fucked up just as much as Ellie did.
Yeah, she's not the main character.
It doesn't matter if she's the main character. She's still a character in the story that has so much time centered on her, but gives no shit to
She only exists as a proverb. She only exists as a proverb.
A proverb that lasts 8 hours of that fucking horrible game.
Well, yeah. You're going through, you're retracing steps, and you're seeing what it would have been like. It's a direct reflection and somewhat serves as a revelation of, oh shit, I know we were attached to Joel and Ellie. Like, their relationship was the main focal point of the game. Like, people fell in love with them because they were like, oh, there's this chosen family father-daughter relationship, and everybody fucking loves that. And you kind of ignore the fact that they are killing literally everybody that they encounter in the process. And when you have Abby, you have this character that she didn't need a comeuppance because she's essentially replaying the first game. She is going through, and you have this character who you're not attached to, even though she has the exact same relationship going on. I mean, I know it's not quite father-daughter, but there's definitely like a certain paternal quality with her relationship with Lev.
I also want to say, I'm sorry, but Abby's dad, the cure would not have been able to happen. Sorry. The Fireflies, by the end of Last of Us 1, were so disorganized and so whittled down to that many people, they're not going to be able to distribute a cure, if it can be made. While The Last of Us 2 acts like this was a certainty, and it would have absolutely saved the world. And like, no, how could you have developed it? You wouldn't even know if it'd be happen.
Well, they did have an entire hospital, though. They managed to get an entire hospital,
but that's the only Fireflies left. That's all that's left. And they literally, the entire Last of Us shows how they're dwindling, they're losing resources, losing supplies, losing researchers. They're down to brass tacks and nails. Like, there's literally barely anyone left by that last. And when Joel wipes them out at the end of Last of Us 1, there's nothing left.
Mm-hmm.
He kills their main leader, so it's literally like, and how would they have been able to distribute this cure from this one girl nationwide, and everybody would just go back and be cured from it?
And did
No.
you notice who else at the end of the game, who because of a revenge tour had nothing left except for the little child that she like adopted and was running with at the end of that game?
Who?
Exactly like Joel. Abby.
Mm.
All of her friends taken out by this other character. She's completely alone except for her Ellie type. She's in the exact same situation as Joel. I mean, if you wanted to, you could literally do a third game, just reincarnate and get a new Abby. Abby serves as the new Ellie.
If that happened,
it'd be a shitty game.
Oh, yeah. If that happened, I would firebomb Naughty Dog.
It'd be horrible. It'd be a horrible idea.
Also, Naughty Dog, change your fucking formula for your games, please. It's been the same third-person adventure. It's been fun for a while. Uncharted 4 was amazing, story-wise. But holy shit, change your games.
Yeah, they're definitely...
For the love of fuck.
They're definitely going to watch this. That's going to get through to them.
I don't care. I'm angry.
Okay. Speaking of this sort of fucking one-man wrecking ball and activist sort of... Activist is loosely...
I love a good segue.
Before I get into the actual, like, fucking meat of it, I have a hypothetical for you.
Okay.
There are a lot of characters within media who, fantastical or not, ridiculous or not, random or not, they serve as political mirrors in some form or another. And so my question to you is, between two of those characters, the Lorax and not real, Unabomber, probably real.
Probably real.
Which do you think is more based? Which do you think is more reasonable between the Lorax and the Unabomber?
The Unabomber was more practical, and he wrote a book on it. I'm sorry, I know the Lorax is a book, but it denies some of the greater complexities of it. But at the same time, Ted, you didn't need to bomb everyone, man. I mean, at least not to the capacity you did. Maybe a few here and there, then some messages, but slow down, man. Come on.
I've been seeing a lot of pro-Unabomber TikToks recently.
That's your problem. Get off of TikTok.
China's been trying to get to
TikTok
me.
is the Antichrist. Get off of TikTok.
I don't know. I don't subscribe to TikTok. I subscribe to exclusively Unabomber content. That's all my social medias. Follow a bunch of Unabomber fan pages. You would opt for Unabomber over Lorax? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah.
You're pro Unabomber?
As much as I love the stash on the Unabomber, not on the Unabomber, fuck, the Lorax. As much as I love the Lorax's mighty stash, there's power in mustaches. Ted Kaczynski, good guy, patchy facial hair. Don't agree with it. I'm still kind of growing, so I don't really have room to talk, but at the same time...
I can never commit to growing. Every time I try to grow a beard, I know I could, because I will go like 4 days without shaving, and I'll have the full, like,
stubble.
Get up. But I hate the look of the stubble.
Well, you gotta let it grow past the stubble.
No, I've gone as much as... After my most recent breakup, I went about 8-ish days. That's the longest I've ever gone without shaving. That's it. And it was like, I was approaching beard territory.
Grow some hair on your chin, laddie.
It was disgusting. I hated the look of it.
Comb it.
Comb
your beard. You take care of your facial hair. That's how you cultivate it.
At I don't even think it was 1/4 of an inch. Like, it was between an eighth and
you gotta let it go
1/4.
longer than that, my man.
Well, how do you comb that? Would you comb a buzz cut?
You gotta let it grow past a buzz cut.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying.
You just gotta stick out the uncomfortable stage. Yeah. And you just have to.
But I know that the shaven stage is always completely comfortable and has a solid look. And I don't know
here's
what that
the
look
thing.
would
You
look
have
like.
a good jawline, so you can rock clean shaven. Me, my jawline's softer, so I really like facial hair because it kind of masks that.
My jawline is actually, I feel like it's too sharp. Like, genuinely.
Not
I feel
at
like
all.
It's too, I wish it was a little like, this right here was a little like, because I'm fully like, very much like Minecraft head.
Here comes the crimson chin.
It's like, I don't know how to gauge it.
It also helps because you have a very aquiline nose, so that really defines your features and sharpens it.
I do. It looks weird from the side, though, because it rounds.
I have a small little, like,
schnoz. I wish I had some upturned-ish.
I mean, mine's not upturned. It's just kind of a small nose.
Yeah, I know. I wish I had like a
Something
kind of
that's unconventionally attractive. Big noses. I don't know why.
Maybe. I hope you're right.
Well, that's just for me. That's just for me.
That
like something I find like, say for example, like looking at girls.
I hope a bunch of people agree with you. Honestly, really do.
I don't know, man.
That would be really convenient for me.
I blame. Here's the thing, aesthetics. It's like I don't really mind that. I'm not picky. I don't really care, but like everybody has some personal likes when it comes to aesthetics and stuff. I really blame early Barbra Streisand for my like aesthetics, like curly afro hair, big noses. Like look at Barbra Streisand on her Superman album. That single album cover ruined me in my taste in women.
She was a blondie, wasn't she? Because
Yeah, she was.
I like curly-haired blondes. So
well, the thing is,
we might have some overlap with the
What are you suggesting?
with the Barbra Streisand situation. I can't picture her just
sexy. Look up Barbra Streisand Superman. I mean, she didn't age quite the best. Well, look up the Superman album. That's old Barbra Streisand. Look up young Barbra Streisand, you fool.
Okay.
Jesus.
You're right.
Did you look up Superman album?
I didn't. My bad. I looked up young.
Curly hair, afro, big nose.
Okay.
You're analyzing this
okay,
in a lab.
I see it. That's not my type, but I see it. That's not her blonde era, though. I like to pretend like I don't have a type, but I very much like.
Or that buff girl from Alien 2. Sheesh. Or no, Alien 2. Aliens. Sorry.
I mean, absolutely no offense by this. You do have the vibe of somebody who would like buff women, though. Am I reading that correctly?
Buff women and bigger women.
And you didn't like Abby.
No. I don't let aesthetics overtake personality. I'm primarily attracted to intelligence. If I can't have a good conversation with you, or like, I'm not saying we have to agree. Disagreement is just part of people. But like, if like Abby just is the person in a bar, where every time they talk, I just like dream of smashing my glass across their face.
See, she would be into that though. It might work.
My brother in Christ. What the fuck?
You know she would be. She's intense. You could have. Listen. I'm just saying, if it got a little bloody, I don't think she would mind.
Wait.
You're gonna get me sued. I have to put that up. I figure we've been recording for about half an hour. Probably about time to hop in a little bit to the meat of it. You are here today because of what many in our hellish little two-party political getup in America would consider to be. I feel like quirky would be an understatement politically. You're what
quirked up political party breaking it down lobbyist style. Is he good with the taxes?
You're what the kids call a distributionist.
Distributist.
It's not distribute. Oh, it is. I just read that wrong. Okay. The Max are. Anyway, what the fuck is that? What the fuck is a distributist?
It has so many like weird variations, but it all started from this idea of like Christian democracy, Christian economic principles. It was made by Pope Leo, I think the 13th. But basically it's describing like a way where, you know, you could still have some form of a capitalist system, but one that benefited everyone. It was then later kind of further defined by British politician G.K. Chesterton, who in his day, he used the slogan 3 acres and a cow. And essentially, and it's been a while since I've actually studied the rhetoric of it, but the whole idea is basically everybody is indebted to their own private property, and everybody uses that for the benefit of each other. It promotes like any sort of bigger industry co-opted or like it's equally shared,
Yeah.
but it promotes a lot of like personal, like guild and personal industry. It promotes everybody making their own craft. Almost everybody makes something, everybody gives to each other, and everybody benefits from that. And any excess is dispersed amongst everybody.
A very medieval town core.
It kind of is. It's like everybody has a purpose, everybody contributes and helps one another, and any excess goes to the greater whole. And it gets rid of because there's this common use, and it's like this, and then like it's used for grades when talking about like take for example classic socialism, which is different from distributism. Because you have the classic anti-socialist argument of like, well, let's say this is a classroom and everybody's working and you have a group project and I work really hard and I deserve an A. But this person isn't working hard, but he still gets an A because under socialistic principles, everybody gets the same share. Well, and so is it fair? Now, to me, it sounds draconian, but at the same time, I'm one of those people where it's like, in a more moral sense, but if you don't work, you don't get the benefits of the system. I don't, because people say like, oh, what are you going to do about people that are unproductive? Well, if they don't contribute to the system won't contribute to them. It's just, that's the thing. Everybody needs, if you are going to participate in society, have a society that requires participation. You don't just have a thing where some people can just kind of coast along or, anything. Everybody needs to work and everybody needs to help each other. And it also, another big thing is the idea of family values. G.K. Chesterton, uh, sorry for the coughing, recently got off a flu. Dry air here is fucking me up. But, I have to preface that. But the whole idea is like the family's the indivisible unit. So society should kind of be like a family where everybody helps everybody. And it's like kind of this tight linked idea. And it definitely has it, and it can kind of cross the line or draw the line between like oh, so is it a theocracy? Like is it no, it's like in America when you say like, oh, these laws are based off of like Judeo-Christian principles, but if it wasn't horribly fucked up. So it's just something, and so it's like there's a free market, and it doesn't promote like it's not like everybody has to live in these cottages and work in like pre-industrial forges. No. You can have a big industry, but it's co-opted by all of its employees. There's an example already. There's the Mondragon Corporation, which is based out of like, I believe, Catalonia or Basque Spain, somewhere in Spain. But it's like the world's largest functioning cooperative, and it's been around for like a century now.
A couple things. You said, so ideally within, is it distributism? Is that
Yes.
what you call it? Within distributism, you'd have a system where everybody's contributing and every single person who contributes to the system profits off the system. If you don't contribute at all, you don't profit at all.
Yes.
Okay. In a working class, you're always going to have individual citizens where whatever it may be, it is entirely possible that they won't be able to function in a manner in which they will be able to they just straight up won't be able to complete a lot of jobs. Like you have disabled people, you have people who've had like brain injuries and those type of people. Does that mean in their situation, would they have a situation where they'd be forced to do like the jobs that they have to do to survive, sort of in like a capitalistic manner where you have to work like 40 hours a week at like a Walmart or a Subway just to make your fill? Or is there an exception for them and they don't have to work but they still profit off of the system because you want to keep them alive? Or are they just fucked?
In the case of severe disability, there would be kind of like a welfare system to help those because, even if you can in that sense, you can still help. It's the whole thing is the only person who directly would be like, you're not receiving benefits from the system would be people who are able-bodied but refuse not to. The
Mhm.
disabled, the injured, handicapable, uh, all like they'd have systems where they can, uh, they can be and they can receive benefits and help. It's one of those where ideally it'd be one of those where they could find like maybe a necessary job, but one that's, not as dangerous or challenging or tiring. Like say somebody is like handicapped both legs or a double leg amputee.
Mm-hmm.
They can still sit at a desk and write stuff up and help out that way. So it's one of those where unless there's genuinely a way where you could not work in any way possible, like there would be a system to help those people and give them a comfortable life. And it's not like this isn't a system where everybody works till they drop.
Yeah.
And of course, there's given time, and like there's going to be some days where there's just not work. Like, take for example, national holidays and all that. Like, why the fuck is there people working on Christmas morning, Thanksgiving? Truly, there
Did
should
you know
like on holidays. Truly, nobody should be at work.
I'm working on Christmas morning for Walmart?
Fuck, man. No, that's the thing. Nobody, truly, on a holiday like that, nobody should work. All the stores should be closed. Everybody go home. Fuck, even if you don't have a family, which, sorry if you don't, but like, you have friends. It's like, on those days, there should truly be no work. I find it. My sister has to work Thanksgiving,
I do too.
and it's like, she's a waiter, and it's like, nobody's gonna come in.
A lot of the bigger stores, and I know Walmart does this specifically, and I know they're not alone in this. Not only do they have you work, they make them something called a double points day. I don't know if you know how the point system works in some retail systems. They'll have like you'll call in
I
sick.
mean, I worked at Kroger, but I was like a janitor for 3.5 months, so I
Yeah.
don't believe there was a point system there.
The point system is they have like a penalty system for missing. You call in late and you miss less than half of your shift, you get half a point. You call in and you miss your shift, you get 1 point. You miss a shift without calling in, you get like 2 or 3 or something like that. Walmart has a thing where on these specific holiday days, because they sell so much, because super rich, because they sell literally everything. They not only don't give employees time off, they like actively refuse it. Like I went in and the dude I asked for like Christmas off early September, just straight up refused. He was like, "Well, there are employees that have been here way longer than you that didn't get it off." Yeah, how the fuck do you say that to me with a straight face and act like that's reasonable and not a reflection of the fact that you are insane? But they make them double point days. So like if you called in sick, you get 2 points instead of 1 if you called in sick on Thanksgiving.
Man, fuck that shit.
Yeah. And part of my questioning was I was wondering because it's stupid to pretend like there is a system in which everybody would be satisfied.
Of
Because straight
course.
up, not everybody has the skills that they would need to be satisfied. And maybe that's just a draconian way of thinking of mine. I'm not hyper free market like
I will
everybody
say,
fuck around
it's
and do
depressing that a lot
whatever.
of people think that way,
Yeah.
but it's given in the world we live in. But at the same time, there is a large amount of people who just kind of said, who've already thrown in the towel, who said, well, why the fuck does it matter? I'm never gonna see the benefits. But to me, it's like, even if everything that I'd want got put out into plans and systems, I would never see the fruit of it. Never.
Yeah.
It's one of those where it's like, we got to be thinking of setting up systems that'll help the people after us. Because despite, no matter who you are, like anywhere in the political spectrum, if you want every policy of yours to go into effect and cement itself, sorry, I'm
Yeah.
but it's like if you want to do that, plan after yourself, plan forward. This idea of generational planning is completely gone. Everybody wants everything in the next 4 to 8 years with the presidency,
Do you
as
think
if
it's
people think the whole world turns on the state of a president. Sometimes it does, some cases it has. But let's be honest.
how would you shift in from an individualistic mindset to I'll be I'll be fucking sore today, but my kids won't be. You know what I mean?
I think it's a thing that's happened over time where it's just lack of voter efficacy, political apathy, social apathy. And it's not everybody has it. People still care about causes, but kind of the long-term planning, like when a person of color is killed by a cop from police brutality. People get mad about that and they get angry and they protest for a bit, call for some changes, though nothing ever usually goes through. A few months of rioting and protests, and then it just pitters out. And the cycles happen again and again. So it's like this flare up, like, we're going to get angry, and then we're doing nothing. And another tragedy happens. We get angry. Then nothing. It's like what Stalin said: when one death is a tragedy, a million statistic. It's just happening over and over, but like either very little or nothing is happening each time. When we finally need to take a step back and think of the overall problem, we're addressing every symptom along the way and not the virus itself. And so that kind of bigger picture is lost on a lot of people. Now, I don't want to stand here and act like I know everything, because that's a pretentious mindset. I don't want to, and I'm not. I'm not the smartest man alive. But there definitely is some kind of loss of greater thinking, or thinking, man, what's it going to be like for my grandchildren? Especially due to a greater focus on the role of the presidency, this whole 4 to 8 year things where people think everything can change to 4 to 8 years, or luckily if we get similarly minded presidents back to back, 12 to 16 years, hopefully. So it's just like, and people are, and that's the whole thing. Presidents kind of just become a celebrity game now.
Yeah, they've never been effective, but that's.
Well, no, some presidents were very effective.
What I say never, because when I say never, I mean like
in our lifetimes.
I think of like last half century. If it hasn't happened in the last half century, precedent is entirely broken.
I blame the entirety of the American state, as it is government-wise, military-wise, on Woodrow Wilson. I will blame Woodrow Wilson, and only Woodrow Wilson, for fucking everything up. Man set back development of this country for like 50 years in one presidency. Everything after Teddy Roosevelt did, all the reforms he made, Woodrow Wilson was like, well, fuck that shit, and then gone.
My dad would
fuck that.
My dad talks about Woodrow Wilson all the time. He hates him too.
Man of culture. He knows what's up.
No, he's actually insane.
Well, never mind then. But nah, this motherfucker, Woodrow Wilson, lost cause revisionist. Like, Teddy Roosevelt kind of did it, but Woodrow Wilson really went over the top with capitalistic American imperialism, Banana Republic, Central America, South America, Philippines. But like, Woodrow Wilson was just so fucking just evil. He had to have his hands in everything. He was the one who kind of really caused World War II. He really did, because he tried so much to establish his own system that he kind of... Sorry.
He's a little before World War II. He'd be World War I, wouldn't he?
Well, he just came after World War I, but at the Treaty of Versailles, he wasn't effective at all.
Woodrow Wilson was before World War I, right? Because he was in the teens, the 19 teens.
He was throughout World War I.
Yeah, but he was like in that period, though.
Yeah.
He didn't come quite after, because after was you're approaching like...
Well, the thing is, what he
Coolidge
did...
is a little bit later. I don't remember.
The thing is, he was there for the Treaty of Versailles. The Treaty of Versailles is the single thing that caused, or like the biggest thing that caused World War II, because of all the reparations against Germany. When in reality, it was Austria that caused the shit. But because Germany caused the most damage in the European theater and aggravated it most, Germany was the big bad. So, thing is, because Woodrow Wilson wasn't really standing in a way and kind of looking at it from a rational perspective, the whole time he kept trying to press the League of Nations idea, worldwide democracy, city on a hill thought, and he didn't really give a shit about the greater concerns of England and France. England and France dominated the Treaty of Versailles, and their goal was to fuck Germany over, economically, militarily, government-wise, bureaucratically, and it did. And that left a big mark on Germany's pride, the sting, the inefficiency of the Weimar Republic for the next decade, and like economic inflation out the wazoo, which stoked the fires of German resentment, which allowed a little angry Austrian artist, AAA, to come over and be like, hey, we really got fucked over in the Treaty of Versailles, and I think I know who did it. So really, if Teddy Roosevelt was still president, didn't split the vote with his progressive parties, well-meaning as it was, he ruined the vote. But if President Roosevelt was there, he would have been very much like, England, France, calm the fuck down. We're going to talk this out like gentlemen. Because you got to remember,
Later.
and Teddy Roosevelt was asked to come in and basically settle shit and basically be a peace talker. So, really, Teddy Roosevelt had great experience at that. Or Woodrow Wilson was this Southern revisionist idealist who had this idea of spread America. Don't help countries depending on their needs. Spread America. A ideology that is that plagued all of our Cold War thought, caused all the proxy wars.
That's his British ancestors taking over.
Yeah. So, all in all, fuck Woodrow Wilson.
Okay. Yeah, no, fair. I'm going to pull a Bugs, pop out the rabbit hole for a second. You mentioned putting your own needs aside. Something you've really driven home, something that is very clearly important to you in your distributist ideals, is putting your own needs aside for the benefit of your kids, for your grandchildren, for their kids, for their grandchildren, hopping on down the line. Is it possible that with that sort of mindset, you can become hyper-focused on the future, and specifically the future of your own seed, basically your future, the future of your bloodline, and in that chase of potential, you neglect what is already here, and you neglect your fellow man, and maybe neglect them in the form of like forcing those, because I do think you would have to force at least somewhat disabled people, or even if they're not disabled, even if they just don't have other skills, you'd have to have people running like you'd have to have people doing the menial shit. You'd have to have people plowing the fields. At
That's
least
the sad shit. And I learned this as a janitor, and I learned this.
Yeah.
There's always going to be somebody to scrub the toilets. It sucks, but it's just the reality.
How do you decide who does that, though? Because it feels
and that's
like...
the hard question I don't even know an answer to.
Yeah, because I don't think the system is bad. I really don't think the system is bad.
Like right now?
But in your system.
Oh, okay.
I'm not getting into right now. Our system is too complicated.
I was about to say, oh, don't open this can of worms.
That's a separate episode. I have too much prepared here.
Fair enough.
Within your ideal system, it seems like the primary backlash would come from the distribution of jobs among people, deciding who gets the solid jobs, maybe who gets to be the entertainers, who gets to be the actors, who gets to be the podcasters, who gets to film them, who gets to have the lax jobs, and who has to do the menial labor. And it seems like you would almost set up a structure very similar to capitalism, except intelligence and capability is the currency.
I'd say a guild system wouldn't be too bad. Of course, this is where it also gets into philosophy in politics. Raise people to be virtuous leaders and politicians. That's the thing. Politics is just as much a philosophy as it is a science. So that's the whole thing. It's why I have such a problem with politicians today. Most of them are lawyers, which I mean, the government is to understand the law. I get that.
Yeah.
But
they have to learn how to make things as confusing
same thing with
as
economists.
legally possible.
But then again, you have the people that view government and political leadership as just a lawyer tool or just an economic tool. People view it as a tool and not as a way of life. A politician should ultimately, and this is some of my Machiavelli thinking, a politician, the whole point of being a politician is basically saying, I'm putting myself aside and indulging myself and ingraining myself in bureaucracy for the sake of the people and the state the people live in. He says in his book, The Prince, the whole point of the prince is to serve the state and the people of said state. They don't serve you, you're serving them.
Yeah.
Ultimately. And
I don't think that's the holdup with Machiavellianism.
A lot of people get holed up on Machiavelli because of some things he says.
Well, it is very heavy. It is genuinely very heavy.
Well, yeah.
Even outside of quotes on the ends justify the means argument. And the problem with it, do you think it's an issue when if you get into an ends justify the means sort of mindset and you don't acknowledge your own fallibility and you start doing horrible means and then you don't get the end that you wanted and then hypothetically kill 15 million people and then also lose World War II. You know what I mean?
There's a fine difference between ends justify the means and desperate times for desperate measures. Ends justify the means. You can keep upscaling that. You can keep going on, and depending on what you think the ends is, you can keep going in means. But desperate times, desperate measures, That invokes a sense of last resort. No other way, and once it's done, it's done. That's the whole thing when he says, would you rather be feared or loved? He says, if you can, be both. But if you have to choose and you're in a place where you can't cultivate both fear and love of the people, choose fear but don't be too brutal. Don't be too malicious because then the people will see you as a bloodthirsty buffoon and rise against you. That's the thing. He says, one example he brings up is, to those of you that know Italian history, I'm very sorry. Cesare Borgia, who was a general at the time,
Mhm.
who was loved by the people, but when it came to war, he was quick, brutal, and efficient. A province rose up against him, he'd go in and, like all the people who resisted, he'd castrate them,
Yeah.
keep them alive, castrate them, move on, and then immediately have like a circus afterwards.
Mhm.
So, of course, times have changed since then. But
Well,
he's like, he's like, you don't be too brutal, but just be brutal enough, but also show your love and show, hey, like I had to do this because I needed to prove a point and I needed to get things under order, but I don't do this normally. This is only because I had to do this, as opposed to I did this for a greater purpose and I'm willing to do it again and again until I get that greater purpose.
I
There's a fine
yeah,
difference
yeah.
between ends justify the means and desperate times, desperate measures. And that's ultimately what Machiavelli argues for in that circumstance. Only resort to it when you need to and do it as sparingly as you can. Peaceful revolution, not revolution, well, I guess sometimes revolution, but peaceful resolution, debate, like talking things out, being diplomatic. Machiavelli was a politician, he was a diplomat. So he understood that was more important than just going in willy nilly and just hacking everybody to pieces.
I do think that's part of my own personal concern with Machiavellianism, though, is because once you enter that mindset of you try to accumulate the love and the fear of the people, but if necessary, you shoot for fear because you want to have con- it's maintaining power. And when you are that type who aims for both love and fear, you get in a very godlike mindset because that is very similar to like an Old Testament Abrahamic God type of get up.
Well, I'd say it
And
depends on the person, because hopefully, if the person ruling is a virtuous person, they wouldn't think so. A virtuous person would put the needs of the people and the state before themselves. It's one of those things where it truly depends on the person. Some people don't fall to that. Some people are genuinely good politicians, like in Rome. Do you know the system of dictator, right?
um, I'm not super familiar.
So in Rome, so in the Republic era, there were senators, but there were two consuls, two
Hmm.
presidents, equal power, and they could cancel each other out. And finals, they had to go to them, the two consuls. But when Roman politics entered complete gridlock, nothing could move, nothing could get done, or even worse, it was a time of crisis and nothing could get done. Not even the consuls can agree. They'd elect a dictator, somebody that the senators thought of amongst them was the most wide and most able-handed to like fix the situation. And this happened a few times. The most famous dictator, the one that was most efficient, I forget the rest of his name, but his name was Cincinnatus.
Hmm.
And Rome was like undergoing like riots, like if I remember correctly, like riots. There was a food shortage. There was all this bad shit going on. And usually, when you're a dictator, you get it for like 6 months. And like after that, it ends and it goes back to two consuls. But when the dictator is in power, their word is law. If they say, "Hey, we need to do this," that's happening, and nobody can say anything against it. But this guy Cincinnatus solved all these problems in like 3 weeks, if up to a month. And then when he finished, he stepped down. And there's that nobility. There's, I guess, that noble patrician aspect. And that's why philosophy is so important in politics, because there needs to be morality in politics. There needs to be a moral sense. Yeah, and like a modern sense where a lot of government and stuff can come down to just number crunching money and statistics. It can be very cold and impersonal or very power accruing. And when it comes to that idea of cultivating this godlike mindset or this egotistical mindset, it truly is dependent on the person. So you can only really hope and pray that um, the person that's ruling and knows how to rule a state is wise.
Well, I think it's within the Machiavellian sense. They wouldn't really be Machiavellian if they weren't, though. You know?
Fair.
And also, I
I'm not
do.
saying Machiavelli's infallible. Man definitely had
No,
flaws.
I was talking about that specific type of leadership too. And also, I mean, I don't think morality necessitates the absence of infallibility.
Not at all.
I don't I mean,
Well,
it's pretty obvious that none of us are entirely good, and it's obvious that none of us are entirely bad as well. So I think you can, even if you come into power from a place of virtue, I mean, even if you don't mean to do wrong, even if you're just misled, even if you're just
you
ignorant,
can still do wrong.
yeah. But that's what I'm saying. When you're in that ends justify the means mindset and you are ignorant and you just your morality's a bit skewed at the moment. I mean, it's possible. If you see crazy
Ethics.
shit, it's possible to
There's
get
a
thrown off.
morality is concrete. Ethics are permeable. Ethics are the view of which we view morality. Morals are solid. Morals don't change. Ethics change, and ethics are the lens of which we view morals. Morals are universal and like common for every human. This is my belief, by the way. But I believe morals, there are concrete morals, but ethics are the way people interpret and use those morals.
What are the concrete morals?
That's the thing. It's a hard concept to define. For me, it's
How
one.
is it concrete then?
It just is.
It's concrete but undefinable.
What's God? Concrete but undefinable from a Christian mindset.
I don't think God's concrete at all. I think God would have to be abstract. If assuming the existence, it would have to be.
Concrete in that it's abstract?
Well, I mean, no.
It's a tricky wordplay, I know.
Yeah.
But that's the same thing with morals. It's one of those where you can think, well, what are morals? What are certain things? But then again, what are the ethics you bend them by?
That's what a theocracy would be, though. Once you have the idea of that concrete moral, that's when you delve into the theocracy.
Oh, you can have a
theocratic
completely
environment.
secular society with morals. Morals are not inherently from religion. Nietzsche argues
Or
that.
at least totalitarian. I guess it wouldn't have to be theocratic.
Fair. But it
usually would be, though.
An ethical and moral society is what I believe most people strive for in their own way, even if they end up missing the fucking mark.
No, absolutely. And I also believe that we all fall short of what we strive for.
Yeah.
So that's why Machiavellianism, and specifically that ends justify the means mindset, when you put yourself into that, I'm just going to assume from a Machiavellian standpoint, when you put yourself into that godlike state, not that you think you're a god, but you do think you're used to the absolute power and you want people to love and to fear you, but you're willing for them to fear you. God, Old Testament God, exact same way. You're supposed to fear God. It's a very common theme throughout the Old Testament. Jesus kind of shifts it. He's very much hippie-ish. But
Jesus changed a lot of concepts.
Old school God was like, I like you, but you're gonna like fuck around and find out. You know what I mean? And when you get into that state, but you don't have the infallibility of a deity figure, of an omnipotent, perfect being, assuming that God would be omnipotent and perfect. I'm just going to operate under that lens.
A leader should not have that much power. It's like in Game of Thrones. Leaders only have as much power as you give them. Power is a shadow.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like one of those where as powerful as a leader is, like everybody could turn on them, and guess what? They're just one person, no matter what. So it's like it. And once again, it really depends on the person. People will only get that godlike status if you let them get that godlike status. Bringing it back to Dune, the whole message of Dune is to not necessarily trust grand messianic figures.
Yeah, because it's very anti-imperialist. You can kind of tell
it's that,
setting it up already.
But also, have you read Dune?
No, you can tell just by the movie, though. It's very much it feels like it's about to be anti-imperialist. I don't know how, though.
Well, it is, but it isn't, and I'll explain why. If you'd allow me to spoil it, or if you care if
I would actually really rather you didn't. I'm not going to lie.
Ah, damn.
I'm so sorry. I really like that movie.
And I'm not going to say how, but it's very...
Tell you what, it's not. I will let you explore theology right now. I'll give you look. We'll go back to the God thing.
Gotcha.
The Christian derivative of distributism. Does that mean that you yourself also derive from Christianity? Did you come up as a little good old Christian boy? Where does that come from?
I was raised in like a Southern Baptist household.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, we didn't go to church much because we were usually super busy. We tried going to churches. Me and my sister, we didn't really like youth groups. Yeah. Both of us didn't like it because we just never connected with the kids there. I personally didn't like it because there was not as much introspection or like genuine religious study in it. It'd just be like, here's a story about Jesus. Why do we love him? John 3:16.
Yeah.
Now let's go eat cookies and lemonade. I like
Very
cookies and lemonade,
baseline.
but
Very baseline.
there wouldn't be like, this is the story of Saul and Samuel.
Mhm.
And let's talk about that for a bit and all of the different implications and meaning of that. And there would be no greater substance to it. So I didn't really like it in that sense.
Now, I was very much just like read a prepared Bible story, give kids a little Twizzler, and
Yeah.
fuck off. You know?
Yeah, no. And I really, and even now as I come up and like I've done a lot of independent study, a lot of independent theological study, and studying eschatology. I find myself kind of like disillusioned, at least with this American Christianity that's kind of been profligated my whole life. Now, I'm not
Mhm.
saying like my parents and stuff. I'm not saying they don't know what's happening. They don't know the real Christianity like I do. No,
Yeah.
and that's a vain approach. But it's genuinely for me. I've kind of had like my own ideas of how I interpret Christianity and how I view some of the moral and ethical aspects of it, at least in that sense. Sorry, I was just checking to make sure.
No, you're good.
Like if I got any important text.
That specific point, that idea that you understand Christianity more than other people, or vice versa. Just bring it up. I know the idea. I'm not saying I know that's the exact opposite of what you said. I'm saying that specific point. That addresses a really key, I think the biggest key issue in Christianity. I think the biggest thing that people struggle with, atheist, Christian, confused, otherwise completely involved in another religion, their biggest issue with Christianity is clearly biblical accuracy, the level of biblical accuracy that is left in the current books that we're allowed to read, what's been mistranslated, what hasn't, what's been added, what hasn't, whether or not the text comes from men who were genuinely speaking for God and weren't tied up in their own philosophical ideas. Some fully believe it, others believe none of it. So much variety. To what extent do you personally trust the Bible?
It's one of those where, the book, I'd consider myself in my own way a devout Christian.
Mhm.
But it's like, even though I know the book was written, at least the Old Testament, by the Holy Spirit, it's like, yeah, it was written by guys. But
Yeah.
it's one of those where it's all a series of stories.
Mhm.
And stories have a power to them, and stories can inspire belief. Stories can, this to anybody that doesn't read the Bible, even other Christians, I'd say this: read the Bible like you would Lord of the Rings, because here's the thing: even then, you can derive meaning from it, and you can derive meaning from biblical stories in a completely secular light, like the story of Absalom and David. When King David's son Absalom rises up against him. It's a whole rebellion story
Mhm.
in the Bible. And like, yeah, there's the involvement of God. Of course, it's, the nation of God,
Yeah.
David, the chosen king. But it's like, there's this entire, like political narrative behind it. But even by itself, it presents so many morals. And it also gets into the reading of the Bible in the sense of, view it more for the morals and the ethics and the religious teachings it talks about, more so than the actual substance. Because the substance, while important, it's subject to so much. Well, what did they mean by this? Was this figurative? Was this literal? And people get caught so much in the literal or figurative that they forget the nature of it. It's the nature of a thing that matters, not necessarily the form.
So you think it should be interpreted less like a textbook and more like kind of like an Aesop fable? You
A
know what I
bit,
mean?
yeah. Kind of, yeah.
I miss those.
I do too.
What was the name of that spider? Was it like a Nazi or something?
A Nazi?
There was a no. Nazis aren't good.
No, a Nazi.
Is it a Nazi?
A Nazi.
I thought it was a Nazi.
Anansi. A Nazi.
Yeah, no, I see the spelling in my head. I thought it was just a Nazi. Are we saying different things?
It's like either or. There's
that's
a
just
hundred of different interpretations.
I think it's
of the
literally
name.
just my accent. I think we're saying the exact same word because I like visualized it seeing that exact spelling.
Yeah, a Nazi. So it's like
I thought you said a Nazi, like as
no,
in yeah.
but no.
Like no,
But
very bad. Don't derive inspiration from them.
no,
Me to you, Nazis are bad. Okay.
fuck them guys. But no, it's like especially after reading the works of Neil Gaiman. I love Neil Gaiman,
That's
American Gods and
he
Nazi
wrote The
Boys.
Sandman, right?
Yes,
The most. I really like
he
that show. Never read it because I
he
struggle with graphic stuff. It gives me headaches. But I
he
like it.
also wrote American Gods, very good book series, and a Nazi Boys, which is kind of like the spin-off. But like the importance of a Nazi is super cool because he's the god of stories, who itself is a story, and stories carry more so importance than the form they tell or the form they represent. You can tell an Aesop fable with 10,000 different flavorings and 10,000 different coats, cultural contexts, but you're still getting the same moral across and the same message across.
Careful.
Sorry? I talk with my hands.
Yeah.
So it's like, while there is some importance in the form, it's the nature of the thing that matters, or it's what true meaning is derived from, at least in my opinion. Everything I say here is with a grain of opinion.
Yeah.
I don't hold myself thinking that I've somehow found the answers that nobody else thinks.
Yeah.
So I just want to preface that because the last thing I want to feel like is like that I'm some, oh yes, I'm right and everybody else is wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. I don't cope with that.
No, I mean, you're here for it's very opinionated podcast. It's very much just literally just thinking through things on camera. And in fact, I'll have you give your opinion on another derivative. You mentioned the familial aspect constantly as well. Does that focus on family for you and that I feel like it's fair to say passion, does that derive from your own familial love or is that from like an idealization of what you wish a family could be because you didn't have it? Like where does it come from? What's the situation?
It comes from a very real love. Sorry.
You're good.
But
I'm going to edit all of those out. By the way, if you're wondering in the future why the sound just randomly cuts out when he turns around.
Yeah.
It's
My
because
bad.
editing Carson is fucking incredible. That's why.
I'm a problem child.
It's really not that
I
difficult.
fucked it up for everyone.
I literally just clip it out and turn it all the way down. That's literally it. It's
I'm
not
a
an
walking
issue.
mess.
Okay, you were saying.
But so I guess that kind of requires me to delve a bit into like my family life.
Yeah.
And
however much you want to.
I'm completely fine with most of it. If anything, I wouldn't reveal anything, that they wouldn't want me to reveal. I'll just reveal it from how I've seen it in a way that's respectful. But I mean, I had a pretty standard white bread lifestyle. We joke about it a lot that we were the perfect nuclear family. A dog, mom, dad, older sibling, younger sibling.
Girl and a boy.
Yeah, the family that's going to get no college benefits. We're
very much like a married with children vibe.
Yeah, no, like straight middle class, maybe a little above. Not rich enough to pay for college completely, not poor enough to get any benefits.
How Dick Van Dyke of you.
Yeah, no. The Andy Griffith Show, starring Andy Griffith, also starring Don Knotts. But no, so and it wasn't like white bread. We weren't like boring people. No, I love my family. We're crazy. But it's one of those where there's a certain thing, and I've told you about this beforehand, but in my family, so with my name, so I have like my first name, then my middle name Gage, then my last name.
Yeah.
And almost every generation of my family on my dad's side, and I think it's patrilineal, although I'm never sure the rules for it have been laid out, but like every male on my dad's side of the family has the same first name and last name, and we all go by different middle names. And it's been that way for at least...
You guys all go by your middle names?
Mm-hmm. Like, me and my dad have the same first and last name, though I'm Gage and he's Marcus.
Yeah.
And then...
Well, I mean, you'd have to have some differentiator.
They
just stamp a number on y'all's forehead.
And then, like, my grandpa, he was, like, first name Gregory, last name. And it goes on and on for at least 13 generations. So I guess that's unique in my sense, and that something that really paints, like, in my mind, it just that kind of sense of family. It's like I'm under no pretense. Since basically the moment I was aware of it, I knew that one day I was going to be a father of some sort.
Yeah.
Not yet, thank God. But uh, but I know that one day I'm gonna be a father. That's what I strive to be. I want to be a good father, and I want children, and them to have kids. It's like it's a family thing,
Mm-hmm.
and so that kind of idea I've really taken to heart, and it's one of those where I try to view thing as like, how would this work with a family? How would this be from a family centered mindset? It's it's all about that to me, quite personally, and everything I do everything I do has, or everything that I want to do in my life, or every action I take, I want to have um two like reasons behind it,
Mm-hmm.
either to benefit another person or to benefit my family at some point. And I believe every action I want to take in life, I want to be for that end.
Do you think in your familial life you'll fulfill a similar sort of, I'm gonna say totalitarian, because I don't mean it in like the shitty totalitarian sense. I just mean it in the sense of take full control for what you think is going to be best for your family. Are you going to try to be very take charge, in charge, almost micromanagey, but for their benefit? Or do you think you're gonna try try a more lax parenting style? And I know it's probably going to be different once you get there. I'm saying, like, if you had a kid today, what would you try to shoot for?
I'd try to shoot for the same thing my parents did. Lax where it matters, strict where it counts. And like only strict when you need to be strict, and really like the thing is my parents, they didn't let me do whatever I want. There were still rules, but it's like for the most part they were like, do what you want, because if you do something stupid, it's your ass. We'll help you, but the initial, getting burnt by it, that's going to be you.
Yeah.
So it's weird. It was like simultaneously they weren't helicopter parents by any means,
Yeah.
but they were strict where it mattered, but for the most part they were very not lenient, but kind of like just more free form, just kind of like do stuff. And you're your own person. We're not gonna. So I'd raise my kid that way. I'd try to be strict where it matters, though I don't. I hope I don't need to be that, and I hope I can raise a child with enough, like common sense
Yeah.
to not do shit to where I need to reprimand them.
Okay. That's strict where it matters, but lax where necessary. I really like that. And I'm going to tie that back to the distributist thing. And hold on for a second, because I have a big long question. Okay.
Ah,
You mentioned a man in our prep named Huey Long. Old Huey was, maybe, from what I could tell, maybe the closest example that the US has seen, at least in the last century, of a genuine far leftist. Like, Joe Biden, not even close. This dude, like, it would
every man
genuinely
a
apply.
king,
Like, the
every
man
man
was
a
the man
king.
is what old heads now would call a terrorist dictator. He didn't quite reach terrorist level threat in my eyes. He wasn't super
Well, that's
threatening
the
at
thing. He
all.
was he had absolute
He did
power.
become a genuine dictator for a moment in history. He, from what I heard, super folksy and sympathetic guy, which I know you value a lot, for the underprivileged. And he, that kind of folksy, sympathetic presentation diverted attention from the fact that he was like ruthless and autocratic. Not ruthless in the sense of like barbaric, but he was ruthless in
No, he
his
definitely
shooting for power.
he was a figure that definitely believed his way was the right way.
Yeah,
And
the man surrounded himself with like gangster-ish type of bodyguards. He dictated outright to the members of his legislature. Like, he installed legislature when he became a senator that was like under his control, and he used intimidation when necessary. I don't know what type of intimidation that would entail. We can get into that in a second. But when he was about to leave office, he straight up like fired the legally elected lieutenant governor and replaced him with two designated successors. So he went like full totalitarian for a second, right? And oh my gosh, even reading the stuff that I wrote, it's crazy how, like, to fend off challenges for control in 1934, He abolished the local government and took personal control of all educational, police, and fire job appointments throughout the state. He achieved absolute control of the military, the judiciary branch, the election stuff, the tax assessing apparatus, all while denying citizens any legal or electoral redress. And this man also got assassinated because he spoke out against the rich very heavily, and he ended up getting assassinated by the child of a dude that he vilified, which I think he was rightfully vilified. But he did get assassinated by an angry child of a dude that he pissed off, essentially. So, my question to you is, operating under the assumption that Huey Long genuinely has the interests of the public in mind, and any leaders of a Huey Long adjacent type come up would have the genuine interests of the public in mind, or at least the interests of the marginalized majority, the people who need help. And even within your own family, where do you think that point of control should be limited specifically? And I know you kind of touched on it familial wise, but government wise, that's a whole different ball game.
I don't know, man. It's one of those where, of course, from a Western mindset, and I call it the Star Trek mindset,
Mm-hmm.
where it's like the idea that Western progress is never ending and will keep going forward. There'll only ever be more democracy, more technological benefits. But like, if you have here's the thing: people think monarchy is so bad, it's horrible. But you're under the operation of, oh, what if we have a bad king? People like that. It's because, like, yeah, King George III. Oh, to be honest, King George III was kind of ineffectual. He wasn't a bad king. Kind of. But the thing is, people are always under the assumption that the monarch is just going to be an absolute dickwad. He's going to murder everybody and steal all our money and make us serfs.
Well, I think the fear that it comes from, it's not the assumption that all of them are going to be. It is the knowledge that all men die. So even if you have a good one, somebody has to come next, and you don't know what that next will be. I think that's where a lot of the genuine worry.
I
Because
feel like
every monarchical is that
monarchical.
Sure, every that system, they always have good kings, almost always, and they always end up ending because they have a dog shit king who's brutal.
I would say, here's the thing: instead of hereditary monarchy, which is garbage, electoral monarchy.
That's just a president, kind of, but without the other
That's a
branches of
president for
government,
life,
right?
and once again, that's the thing. You can't. Here's the thing: there will be bad rulers. Democracy, republic, monarchy, theocracy, any form of government, you're gonna have a genuinely good person and a genuinely bad person, and that's just. It sucks. It sucks, but it's unavoidable. So even in the most representative, everybody gets a vote democracy, you're still gonna have your freaking Charlemagne's, and you're still gonna have your Tamerlanes. You're gonna have the guys who do everything and the guys who are just abysmal and horrible. And that's just unavoidable for any system of government. So it's one of those where it's like, how do you want to do it? It's like, pick your poison. Me personally, I believe, and this is the thing, this is kind of controversial to say, but I believe in electoral monarchy because I want to believe that, in like good monarchs and good kings and queens, because there's also like a thing of personality about that. There's a finality to that, and this kind of rallying cry. A president, that's a modern thing. It can kind of be bureaucratic. It's weird, but it's like you play off the old sympathies of like power. And this is going to be a weird analogy, but stick with me through this.
Okay.
It's really the fight between kind of more fundamental, like esoteric values and modern, I'll say, Western values. And this is the fight between Dune and Star Trek. And stick with me.
No.
Star Trek depicts a future, once again, where there's endless Western progress, Marxist dream, complete, no scarcity, everybody, nothing but progress, right? And that's how it wants to see the future. Dune sees the future as we go back to feudalism, a mercantile system with Chom, The Navigators Guild have a complete monopoly on space travel, complete feudal system. And you even see that today. And you're seeing that today, this fight between this kind of Western, this kind of endless Western progress and
Mm-hmm.
the establishment of this fundamental aspect, Hegelian dialectics, swinging back and forth. Like even now with in America, even alone, alt-right groups, fundamentalist Christian groups on the rise, alt-right groups that are like kind of like this brutalistic, like, yeah, we're gonna make America a nation of like the strong. Come
Yeah.
on, like that kind of stupid mindset. But it's like, think of Al Qaeda, ISIS. Think of terrorist attacks, and the jihads.
Mm-hmm.
Like freaking 9/11 happens. Oh my God, how can this be? It's a tragedy. What? Why did they do it? A holy war? Who commits holy wars anymore? We're in the modern era. We're in the progressive era. Wars are secular now. Who's still fighting a holy war? And guess what? These stupid fundamental religious nut jobs, in the face of our endless Western progress and democracy, we got trounced by them. We can say we won, but we got trounced. And even then we leave Afghanistan. What does it say in the great fight between Western progress and this kind of global saying we're returning to fundamentalism, for better or for worse? And really, fundamentalism is coming back. That kind of esoteric, going back to pre-established structures, maybe even monarchies. We're going back to that, whether we like it or not. I'd propose that we just need to do it in the right way. Like Europe, in the face of the Nile River eventually is going to evaporate completely, going to dry up, massive crisis. Europe's either going to hardline and shut down all of its borders, or the culture of Europe is going to change integrally and fundamentally. And so, coming back to what about like monarchies and stuff, it's one of those where monarchy can be good, monarchy can be bad. Same with presidents, can be good, can be bad. I just think that for me at least, I know, at least as a symbol, because humans are symbolic creatures, we are. As a symbol, people can get more behind the idea of a king or a queen than a president. Aesthetics matter more than we'd like to admit. The whole reason people in the 60s and 70s loved Castro and Che Guevara so much is because they were a break from the only face of communism up until then was stuffy Eastern Europeans in business suits that were balding.
Yeah.
These kind of like types. But like Che Guevara and Castro, they were these thick, bearded, muscular men out there in fatigues with berets on. They looked cool and they were like, there was that kind of primality to them. That was what people got behind. And people supported them a lot. And even now they have shirts with faces on them purely because the aesthetic they represented. And that's important to people and that matters. And that can influence people for better or for worse. In the words of Voltaire, and this is something I can kind of get behind, the best form of government is a benevolent monarchy tempered with the occasional assassination. In the case of Huey Long.
People don't enough in politics. They really don't. It'd be such a spectacle. That's not a threat, by the way. I'm actually probably gonna have to edit that out. But I mean, they genuinely don't. Where's the? I mean, it's already so theatrical, and they're obviously bullshitting us. So they might as well add in the
Yeah.
sort of Romeo and Juliet. Hey, maybe we gotta like cross-party love interest, and both of y'all
Let's
get
put a
assassinated
few
for
tigers in this
insider.
boxing ring and see what
Yeah,
happens. Let's go.
yeah. You mentioned multiple times this. You mentioned both Western and Eastern philosophy another time, quite a few times, and it seems clear that you favor Eastern philosophy. So I'm curious, what is it about the East that you think they do better than the West, and maybe any vice versa? Is there anything in the other direction where you think the West also does better?
In support of the East, I'm going to say
Okay.
reasons I like the East first, then reasons why I dislike Eastern thought, and leading into that, my likes of Western thought, and then ended out with dislikes of Western thought.
Mm-hmm.
Eastern thought, it helps because it's cyclical, and that can kind of help human minds cope with why things happen.
Yeah.
Like with governments, why do governments start good and then get shit? And in ancient China, they'd say, "Oh, the mandate of heaven," where a country or like where a king and the dynasty is good for a bit and then fails. Then there's there's about maybe a century of warring states. Everybody doesn't come. Then another dynasty comes along, and then it goes up, and then it goes down. And it's one of those where there's this kind of generational grander perspective of, yeah, right now it sucks, but this cycle will end and we'll have another government later on that's good for a bit and ends. Meanwhile, here in the West,
Uh-huh.
anytime a major like government happens, whether it was with Rome, the British Empire, fucking America, we act like it's easier to think of it as the end of the world than just a changing of the seats.
Yeah.
And Eastern thought, it's one of those where it's like, it's also, there's pretentiousness sometimes, but it's a lot less pretentious than a lot of Western thought, which can be like, oh, yes, this is the answer. And usually that answer is some thing where it's like, I believe in this, but I will not act on this, or I believe in this and act on this, but because I do so, I am better than everyone. Where a lot of Eastern philosophy is just like, this is a good way to do things, and this is how you can do it. And that's very nice. Though at the same time, Eastern philosophy can be a bit rambling, and it's one of those where it can definitely be one of those things where, from a Western mind, it can have that mystique where you can think Eastern philosophy is integrally better just because it's different from what you've been raised with.
Do you think it's fair to say that Eastern philosophy is inherently more rigid? And
I,
if so, do you think that's a positive or a negative?
as to positive and negative, I'm unsure. But like when you look at like concepts to come out of China,
Mm-hmm.
Confucianism, legalism, all that stuff. It's one of those where you got to remember the Chinese language has kind of been the same for 8,000 years.
Yeah.
And it's been pretty. So the thing is, they've kind of, for better, for worse, once again, it's hard to say because there's been good and bad, but they have their shit on lock essentially. Where we're still kind of fiddling with some stuff because languages change, meanings change, new philosophies arise
Yeah.
along with just the social climate and because of the syncretism that ancient China still has with modern China in that sense, a lot of stuff has changed, literally. But there's also things where it's like you can still see why they haven't changed and why
Mhm.
these systems are still set or this belief is still set despite being around for 3,000 plus years. Um, so, Eastern philosophy, it's definitely where, and like I was saying, it can be one of those where people from the West can kind of up boost Eastern philosophy just because it's different. And they'll say, whoa, it's so smart when it's really kind of just saying the same thing as the West. Like, the idea of Hinduism and Brahman, the ultimate divine reality.
Yeah.
Everything stems from it and all that. It can be kind of pretentious, like, whoa, like look at God and look at like how all that in like the West and like Christianity, that's dumb. It's like how they think God is like this one concrete person and not
Yeah.
this universal force, whereas Brahman is this one universal force. Then for them to immediately go like, well, there's also this one aspect of the force named Ganesha, and he has an elephant head. He does these specific things and all that. And I'm like, how is that any different from where I view God as this incorporeal thing, this kind of almost this the same as Brahman, almost this ultimate divine reality that doesn't have a name and it also has 1,000 names. We refer to it as he, though really God would be above such thing. He's not some old dude with a beard sitting on a cloud going, yes,
Yeah.
God's a force. But then we simultaneously go, and these are the three aspects he comes in: the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. That's not any different from Hinduism and what it does with its gods. So there's this pretentiousness that like it's different when it's really the same and it's under a different coat because that's syncretism. Now, as for Western philosophy, well, it's more familiar to us because we're in the West,
Yeah.
but it's one of those where it can be a lot more concrete. It can be a lot more, this is how we see things. And that can be a lot better, even because as we've got on, our culture has become less studious. And sometimes a simple answer is good. Sometimes we don't need to dedicate our entire lives to something to find that answer. Sometimes we do, and sometimes it's meaningful, but other times it can be busy. Not everybody can just devote their entire lives to that.
Yeah.
Once again, somebody's going to have to scrub the toilets at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
But
Well, I think that would actually help with the advancement of like Buddhism and that sort of stoic type of thought. I think they are very I think they really see the value in suffering and almost like hyperinflate it from the way that I see it because they think that in those instances where you're forced to just
The thing is,
stop and like, I don't know, maybe like stock fucking
sto-
Walmart shelves for like 8
Stoics and
hours.
Buddhists, they don't value suffering.
Yeah.
They just say, the thing is, and we've been learning this in philosophy and culture class. We recently went over Buddhism. Buddhism says that your struggles in life come from craving of some sort. You're always craving something,
Yeah.
whether that's the idea of legacy and wanting to be remembered after you die, whether that's achieving a great goal, whether that's just something like alcohol or sex.
Is it is it craving exclusively? Because I've also heard a lot of emphasis on attachment being the cause of pretty much all suffering,
Well, craving
from what I
comes from
understand.
attachment. You wouldn't crave things if you weren't attached
I
to them.
suppose so, but wouldn't attachment be a broader, like, which do you think it would ultimately boil down to, craving or attachment?
It's both. It has both things. There's attachment to the physical world and cravings within the physical world. There's both, and there's two of them. But both are just as equally harmful. Now, when it comes to the difference between Buddhists and Stoics, Stoics merely say that pain is inevitable and life is hard, but you can get through it. And it's one of those where don't delight in suffering, but also accept the fact that it is a part of life. It just is, whether you want it to or not or happen. So why bitch about it in the end? It's
Yeah.
like that thing where Marcus Aurelius says in his book Meditations, it's like, I forget the exact quote, but it's like, wake up and every day and tell yourself, I'm going to meet with the ungrateful, the wretched, the miserly. Like, just wake up every day and tell yourself, yeah, I'm going to deal with bullshit, but by the end of the day, I'm going to come back, lay in my own bed, and then another day will happen. So it's one of those where it's like I'd describe myself as a stoic. Anybody that would know me would usually describe me as a stoic. And that's just how I am. And I kind of get that from my dad. It's just we it's just even then like for my grandpa's funeral, my papa's funeral. I did not cry until one song came on, but the
Mhm.
entire time I was kind of stone-faced until that song came on. Or with my great grandfather's funeral, once again, similarly stone faced, I didn't cry till afterwards. Not that I was ashamed.
Yeah.
I don't see shame men crying. That's a dumb thing.
Mhm.
Like, it's, hell, I could go on a whole topic about that,
Yeah, no, I get
about
it.
manhood and what it is.
Yeah.
But it's just, there's, so coming back to Western and Eastern philosophy,
Yeah.
there's very big differences, but there's also more similarities than a lot of people would care for. And it's like, but then again, people don't really want to understand that because it can be hard for them to think that because their idea they've known the longest is more, or this unique idea must be right. It's hard for them to really come up with the same thing. Whereas for me, when learning about Brahman and like Hinduism, I mean, of course, I'd done personal research, so I knew about it a lot
Uh-huh.
even then, but it wasn't as shocking because of how I view God and my sense. The idea of Brahman wasn't this big, like, oh, you're telling me there is no ego and that everything is part of this ultimate divine, almost world soul.
Mhm.
It's like it was kind of one of the things where it's like, well, God is everything. And so God is synonymous with Brahman, and Brahman is everything. Everything is God. So we are all one with it. So it's like, it wasn't that shocking to me, at least. It wasn't that kind of like, oh, no way.
It would be much easier. I feel like it's fair to say that underneath that sort of Eastern philosophy of interconnectivity and honestly continuance, because Western religion obviously has the idea of continuance, but their idea of continuance isn't like continuing on in the universe and continuing on as you have always been in a different form. It's more of like you have a very specific soul trapped in a body, and that soul goes off to like party
Yeah.
essentially when you die.
It's Buddhism and Hinduism, there's this sense of impermanence.
And so I feel like that impermanent aspect would be almost necessary if you were going to install some sort of distributed system, don't you think?
Yeah. You'd have to accept the fact that nothing is going to remain. No system of government will last forever. It's like even once again, not only would I never live to see it, but this system would last if it was handled perfectly 300 years, then it'd collapse in the face of something else.
Yeah.
And I understand that. I guess it's just one of those where when it comes to planning for the future, I'll never know what's going to happen 300 years in the future.
Yeah.
Nobody does. but it's like the only people that would know what's going to happen in 300 years are climatologists.
Mhm.
But like for the next like 100 years, a century, we can kind of guesstimate some stuff based on current models. And 100 years, that can be up to 6 generations.
Yeah.
So it's like I'd want to prepare for the next 100 years. If I can prepare for any time longer than that, hell yeah. And if it would last that long, hell yeah. But I'm more focusing on what's going to be good for like the next 4 generations. Because by the next 4 generations, society's going to be so different and I'm going to be so dead that what I want and what all I wanted to have happened
Yeah.
won't be.
I'm kind of curious about a hypothetical within this context.
Okay.
Okay. I understand the issue of always looking forward, but if you're a Huey Long type or you're a type that is you are the monarchy in that system, there are some issues that can't be ignored, and there are some issues that are vital, that the addressing of those issues would be vital to the public that you may not even notice. For example, in America, like police brutality, issue for decades, probably centuries. Tons of white people, and not even just white people, were like almost completely oblivious to a lot of police brutality until the rise of that super huge Black Lives Matter movement, simply because it wasn't an issue that they regularly encountered. You know, belief in total government control over people for their best interests is only completely effective, assuming that there would be some method of accounting for the infallibility of that monarchist. And so, how in that monarchy, distributist type of government, would that monarchist, one, respond to public issues that would arise, and what happens for those Huey Long type characters when there's an underlying issue that they're completely unaware of that starts to get people in assassination territory? You know what I mean? Like, how do you deal with that?
Well, the thing is, even if you just have like, oh, excuse me, but ooh, but even then, it's not just going to be one person in office making every decision and running every statistic
Yeah.
with a computer. It's like, of course, you're going to have a Senate. You're going to have people. When it comes to electing that monarch, you're going to have to elect them from somewhere, and you're not just going to go, you, Jacob, guy off the street.
Well, I mean, hypothetically,
Welcome.
you could go full popular vote to elect a monarch.
But then again, next thing
You
you
know?
know, that's how you get into demagoguery and how you elect the guy who he talks a lot of cool stuff, but then he doesn't know shit.
Well,
Like
yeah,
it could,
that's the guy that would get assassinated, though.
yeah.
That takes care of itself.
Well, you say that, but then he's so popular that he keeps fucking up, but nobody does that, and nobody realizes he's fucked up so much until he's dead. When people look at it and go, "Oh, he did a lot of bad shit."
Maybe so.
Maybe so.
Maybe, but I mean, how do you deal with that either way?
You'd have
Because
this.
I mean, you would have, even if you didn't have total absolute control, you are clearly the figurehead. You know what I mean?
Here's the thing. Even then, you could have a monarchy for life, like an elected monarch for life, until they fuck up. You could have an impeachment system. You could get rid of them. It's like, right side, there'd be a system in place where, yeah, you can impeach them if they fuck up, same as the president. A lot of people forget that you can impeach your president at any time. Things only get so bad as long as you let it happen. Like with Governor Stitt in Oklahoma. I'm not an Oklahoma native, so if you are, you probably have more context on this. But all the ads I see where it's like, I see people where it's like, I voted for Kevin Stitt, but I didn't vote for a thing he did. It's like, at any
Yeah, I get it
point,
on Hulu a
you
lot.
could have impeached him. You chose not to. So there's
Well, a lot
that.
of the impeachment process isn't popular votes in a lot of states, though. It's a system where, one, we have a two-party system that essentially plays good cop, bad cop in order to avoid actually addressing our needs. And so when you try to address a problem, you try to address a systemic problem with the system that is the problem, we can't fix it. And we know that it sucks. And we know that all of our politicians are corrupt, but we keep buying into the good cop, bad cop thing anyway, because we keep thinking that we're voting for the better cop. But at the end of the day,
That's when you stop voting and just
the cops want to fucking arrest you regardless. You know what I mean? And so they keep us arrested in this bullshit state of limbo. Not even limbo, because it's not remaining the same. It's actively and slowly getting worse. And it's accelerated now. It's barely even slow anymore. Because even though
Yeah.
our prices are technically slowly rising, I mean, it's noticeable when your fucking food prices are jumping up by like 20%.
Well, when it comes to curing that,
short.
I'd say trilateral commission culture of Washington, D.C. that's existed for about a century now is garbage. Every senator, representative, and an elected official in the District of Columbia, I'd say, is a national traitor. Or they probably will be. Or they are if you dig deep enough in their closet.
Yeah.
Find enough little skeletons.
I don't think they'd be little, honestly.
No.
I don't think they'd be little at all. That would be full-size
Trafficking rings.
science class, full anatomical representation size skeletons.
I talk about it constantly, but if I was president, the first thing I would do is basically repeal the Patriot Act, and I would shred the CIA and FBI down to gravel and build them up again.
See, what I would do is make abortion mandatory.
Okay, we just did like a 180. What the fuck?
No, I'm kidding.
Okay, I was about to say, fight's about to start, my man.
I would make them random, though. Algorithmic. I feel like that's ideal.
I think you can be pro-life, but the second you take it with the choice... Here's the thing. I'm pro-life, but even then, the second you take the choice away from the woman, that's wrong. That's straight up fucking wrong.
I think that makes you pro-choice, though. That makes you pro-choice, but like you personally wouldn't. But
I'm pro-life in the sense that I believe everybody should have a right to live. Here's the thing. I believe that. But then again, at the end of the day, it's not my choice whether that happens.
Yeah.
Would I want it to happen? Yes. And even if you don't want the child, put it up for adoption, which, I mean, we'd have to revise the adoption system for our country for that to be a mass viable solution.
I mean, either way, though, that's 9 months of torture, essentially. You know what I mean?
But here's the thing. Once abortion is inflicted upon somebody without their consent, or you deny the ability for a woman to get an abortion of her own volition, and you conflict with them, that's where it's wrong.
Yeah.
Because you take that liberty
and that
ability
I'm not
away
being serious
from someone.
At all. Don't give somebody a random abortion.
No. Nah. Here's the thing. You're walking that strange line because of the divisiveness of this topic. Like when you said that at first, I'm not gonna lie, I thought you were genuinely serious for a second. So I was like, oh
no,
shit.
It's because I think that I raise moment is so funny. That like
I for real thought, I'm like, oh shit's about to go down, man.
No. I'm not super interested in that because it's a question that there's no answer to because it is a fully philosophical debate, which is why legally it shouldn't be enforced because if you're going to enforce your philosophy, it gets bad really
That and the
quick.
religious justification is bullshit because nowhere in the Bible does it say anything
Absolutely.
about that.
It gives you instructions on how to induce an abortion in a Bible.
Yeah.
Like it's
even hardline Hasidic Orthodox Jews go, yeah, that shit's cool.
Yeah, I don't know where it came from. It feels like a pretty obvious control grab.
Oh no, it is.
Like,
it's definitely the American government playing up the sympathies of the WASP people or white American Anglo-Saxon Protestants like them playing into their sympathies of well, God said, when no, God didn't say that, you bucktooth fuck.
Well, it's an unavoidable opinion for them to come into because at the end of the day, I mean that's not an intrinsic value.
At the end of the day, there's a book they have that says nothing about that in terms of whether it's moral or not. It tells you how to do it, but it says nothing.
Yeah, but I mean, they're also brought up where the only commentary that they see from these people who are presented as academics is telling them the exact opposite thing. And it's incredibly difficult to navigate a world where, one, you think everybody is lying to you. So, two, you revert. I didn't actually need to add numbers there. That wasn't sequential.
Basically, people raised from a completely religious lifestyle.
Well, it's that
and that shell shock of being
because
told.
They think that everybody is lying. When you think everybody is lying, instead of changing your mind, you revert to what you began with because you're just gonna go with what feels right because you since everything is everybody else's feeling anyway, why should you have to adopt somebody else's?
Yeah.
And your feeling is based on lying bullshit meant to control you. So I don't think it's their fault whatsoever. And I think I'm also a marketing major, so I understand how easy it is to get people to fall into bullshit without them even knowing.
Yeah.
And we live in the greatest propaganda system in the world.
Well, that's the thing. And it's one of those things where it's like, say for example, racism is bad, but I always think that No. I'm not saying but as in racism's good. I'm saying
I know.
Don't dare put words in my mouth.
You get me why?
But
you have me stressed. I was ready to turn off your mic.
No, okay, so listen. There's
Okay.
learned racism and inherited racism. Now I'd say kind of like it's a similar philosophy where it's like the thing is there's kind of still that remnant of inherited racism where it's like they don't know why they say it. They don't have a basis of why they say it or a greater understanding. They just do it because they don't understand it. It's like McCarthyism and the irrational hatred of communism.
Well, that was still learned though. It just wasn't learned specific. I mean,
it
part
wasn't
of that
learned.
inherited
It wasn't
aspect
learned
is
through
it was learned
self-education.
previously. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it wasn't learned through self-education. Like when it comes to Hitler and the Nazis.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing. In Europe, there was always this underlying anti-Semitism, but it was Hitler who learned that and wrote Mein Kampf and built upon that and helped people build that themselves, which then got impressed onto younger generations who then unconditionally believed it just because they learned or mostly inherited it from people that learned it themselves.
Yeah.
And I'd feel like it sucks because it's like when you have it's like when you know people that are rednecks.
Yeah.
And it's like they're still well-meaning people, but then they say shit like, well, it's Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve. Or like they kind of like slip and say like a really bad slur. And it's one of those where it's like, I don't want to say pity because I don't want to pity people. Pity is kind of, it takes away their agency. But it's one of those where you still kind of grit.
Well, there's no agency involved in a lot of that, you know?
But and
there's
then
no agency in the learning of
but
racism.
then you just kind of grit your teeth and you're just like, if you're still watching this, thank you. I know I'm probably just looking at the camera right now. I just want to make sure I'm doing good.
Okay, future Carson, come back right here.
Future Gage,
back.
fuck you.
Still recording. All right, we're all good. I'm going to shift a little bit from the political talk here because I feel like this is a good area.
Yeah, we could talk about this for hours.
We are going to head. Yeah, you are a pansexual man.
Yeah.
What's the contrast between? First of all, you probably did have a time in your life where you thought that you were straight. How long was that, and what is the contrast between being a straight guy and being pansexual guy?
I probably was about I was probably heterosexual up until like, I don't know, last year.
I'm sorry. It's just a really funny way of saying that.
No, it's funny, especially because it's one of those. I'm more straight-laced about this topic. I don't bullshit.
No,
I don't act too frivolous about it.
I was probably heterosexual until about May of 2021.
No shit, yeah. But it was more like Midsummer. But
great movie.
No.
Okay, continue. I'm sorry.
Shut the fuck up. But no, it's just one of those where and it's one of those where usually people say like, oh, I had like a gay awakening where it's like I knew at this moment I knew, or it's like I was on a dare and I was like had to like kiss a guy, spin the bottle, and that's when I knew. And no, I don't know what happened. It just kind of happened, and I was just kind of like, huh. I guess everybody's kind of good looking in their own way.
Yeah.
So,
I guess so.
It's one of those where you're gonna be hard pressed to get like a lot of specifics about that, especially when it comes to certain like micro labels and certain affectations of the LGBTQ plus culture, because I'm not very involved in that. I'm not very involved in pride culture. I'm really not. Look, man, the straightest looking motherfucker you've ever seen.
Do you dislike pride culture in the sense that it can like hyper fixation on micro labels can easily delve into stereotypes?
Yes. Now, people, here's the thing. It's a strange middle ground in that case, because people that choose to embrace their stereotypes, good for them. They're not doing anything to dissuade it, and they need to accept the fact, in that case, that it's going to come with the negativity of stereotype. Unfortunately, we don't live in a post-Pride world yet, so yeah, that's going to be a thing. Unfortunately, I feel like, and I'm not saying there's no romantic aspects, but I feel like it can be a lot of hyper-focus and hyper-fixation on the sexual aspect of it,
Yeah.
less so the romance. So people can very much focus on that part and the kink aspect and sex more so than the romance.
Oh my God, seeing gimp suits at pride parades. Control yourself. That's not
here's the
gay.
thing.
That's
Here's
that's
the thing.
freaky shit. There's nothing gay about it. That is just insanely
I'll admit
kinky.
in this point, I'm a bit of a prude in that sense, where it's like, you can do most whatever shit you want, but just keep it in the room, man.
I don't know if
I
I'm
don't know,
even
man.
like that.
I
Like
just
you, there's no
if I'm
reason
having
to
an ice
own a
cream on the corner and I see a
gimp
pride parade, I don't want to see somebody in a leather dog outfit. That's just me. That's just me.
Okay, the tail butt plugs though, camp is
God
fuck.
damn it! You shut up. You shut the fuck up. No, but it's funny because when it comes to this whole kind of overarching culture, I've never really felt attached to it, because it's one of those where, do you know what straight coded is?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's me. And the thing is, it's one of those where I honestly, and I think I've said this before, but I didn't have a lot of problems when it came to more, conservative people, because one of those where, I mean, I don't hide it. If you ask me about it, I will tell you, regardless of who you are. I just don't go out of my way. I don't wear it on my sleeves. I don't go around saying, oh, I'm pansexual. That's not, I don't put it on my freaking Instagram bio. I don't do any of that. I just am. It's like, if you ask me, yeah, I am. Okay, it's not the big part of my personality. People that want to make it their personality, fair enough. You have all the right to.
Yeah.
That's just not me.
Yeah, I know a lot of effeminate gay men, and I fucking love them. And I don't think the issue is delving into stereotypes. I think honestly, you just need a really large scale of knowing, like, gay men can be this. They could also just be that. Like, it's
a gay dude can just be
they're literally
regular
just guy,
dude.
literally just guy that fucks guys.
Now the thing is, and I guess one thing is the stigma of it.
Yeah.
At least because when I came out to my parents, it was one of those where it was kind of, there was contention.
Yeah.
Because my parents were mostly fine with it, but my dad still kind of had that not in my backyard idea of kind of like,
no, it'd be in your backyard, wouldn't it?
Man, you need to simmer down.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Nah, you good. I'm halfway joking, my bro. But it's like, it's one of those where it's like he just wouldn't expect his son to be it.
Yeah.
Because, I was the all-American kid. I'm the Eagle Scout. I'm the stoic kid who gets the job done. I'm a very straight-coded person.
Yeah.
So it's one of those where he didn't really, him more so than my mother, but I don't really blame him for it. He was raised in Amarillo. It's not a good or bad thing. It just is.
Yeah.
So, but it's one of those where I guess their fear was more so, and we've come to terms with it. It's one of those where it's still kind of like, it's still like we don't really say much about it. It's one of those where we just don't bring it up in conversation a lot. But it's one of those where I guess their big fear was that it was going to change me somehow. That because of it, I was going to start painting my nails black and wearing a choker and wearing tights that accentuated my ass, which is amazing, but I don't like tights. Here's the thing. I didn't change for my sexuality. Not once. I'm still me. I like outdoorsmanship. I like camping.
Was
I
there
like
pressure
books.
too by the people who knew? Like like the friends that you would have, straight friends who try to act as allies, but they don't really quite get it. Did you see a pressure and sort of a forced feminization that you might see in like that sort of relationship where, straight women do it a lot, where they'll try to make their gay friend like one of the girls instead of just
nobody
continue
understood
on treating them
me
normally.
Because I was very open about saying stuff like that, and people just knew. I was just one of those people where I was very hard set. I still am hard set and stubborn in some beliefs.
Yeah.
And the one of where I'm not going to change for my sexuality, that was one. So people didn't fuck with me in that aspect.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, I felt more pressure from people within the LGBTQ community who kind of looked at me like, oh, you're not the right type of gay. Or they'd be like, are you really gay? Here's the thing. When it comes to that, at least especially for bisexual people, you're like Schrodinger's queer. And I'm going to say that. Nah, follow with me here. Follow with me.
I'm following.
Yeah, no.
I'm following.
So the thing is, it's like, here's the thing. You know Schrodinger's cat.
I do.
Yeah, so that. It's like Schrodinger's queer. What happens is, If you're a sex and you're dating somebody of the opposite sex, people think you're just associating or calling yourself bisexual or associating with the LGBT community to get brownie points and to act like you're part of it.
Yeah.
But if you're in a same-sex relationship, people say, "Oh, you're just gay. You just don't want to fully commit to being homosexual. You
Yeah,
want to say
you're
you're bisexual."
simultaneously gay and not gay at the
Yeah.
same time.
So it's like, it's such a fine line.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, what? So it's weird, but then again, once again, I've never been into that culture. Not really. I've studied it and I can understand it, but that's just not me in that sense.
Yeah, so not much of a difference
No,
for you. Okay.
I know. It never affected me much. I never let it affect me. I'm okay with that. It's chill.
Do you want to get into some of your past relationships, both as a straight man and have you dated anybody as an out and about pansexual?
Yeah, I've had 2 boyfriends, 2 girlfriends.
Yeah, so do you want to get into some of those?
The girlfriends were kind of, if anything, I talk about more so my boyfriends.
Yeah.
Because my girlfriends, they were pretty okay.
Who have you liked more so far? Have your experiences with women or men been better?
To be honest, men.
What's the contrast there? Because I've only ever been with women.
I don't know. That's one thing I don't even know. I don't know why it happens. I don't know why I got better luck with men than women. I can't tell the pattern.
Is it
Because
the
I don't want to put a
partners
pattern on just
specifically?
2 relationships.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean I don't mean like going into
No,
women
yeah.
are bitches, guys are low key. I'm not asking you to delve into some like Tate style rhetoric. I'm not interested in that
No,
bullshit.
fuck that, man.
What I'm interested in is have you noticed like differences in I think the most stark contrast between men and women that is noticeable is emotional capability. You know what I mean? But you would usually expect that to come from the women because they don't have that built-in emotional growth stunt that is, I guess you could call it patriarchy. It's just it's cultural.
Patriarchy does affect guys in that sense, where
Yeah.
we can feel like we're very much like we're taught. And here's the thing: there's a fine difference between stoicism and repressing emotions.
Mhm.
I'm very in touch with my emotions. I'd like to think I am, but at the same time, I'm a stoic.
Yeah.
Like, so in that sense, but there is a thing where it's in that patriarchal sense where it's harder for guys to communicate because we're taught the sense where it's like you don't talk about your problems, you just bear it and grit your teeth. And it's like that thing where it's like you really wish you could say something, but you don't want to say no, so you just grit your teeth and become more bitter about it and become an asshole.
Yeah.
So it's one of those where the hardest thing about, like, at least for guys, at least in my experience, is that kind of talking about stuff, but only a little bit. Because when I've been with people, at least my second male relationship, I learned more and we were a lot more open and we communicated better and there was just kind of that better sense about it. So that was a lot better. My first relationship wasn't the best. And my first relationship never is. But thing is, so I'm not going to say names or anything or say
I wouldn't ask you to.
Much in the personal sense, but we were in a relationship for about a month.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those 1 to 2 month ones, that shit will fuck you up.
And here's the
fuck
thing.
you up.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
So I developed a medical condition out of nowhere, and I seriously don't know what the fuck happened, but I developed like IMCA, like involuntary mast cell activation.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, this is probably the wrong terminology for it, but basically like the allergy cells, like the cells that react when you have allergic reaction. Like there was like, and there still is, unless I take like cetirizine every day.
Yeah.
There's like such a large amount of them in my body that it views like white blood cells as a threat. So like under immense pressure, when there's more white blood cells, like my body just explodes into hives. And this happened out of nowhere. And so I was confused and like scared. And one time an outbreak happened while I was in the car with my boyfriend.
Yeah.
And I freaked the fuck out.
So your first relationship ever was with a man?
Yes.
Oh, shoot.
Yeah.
So if you had,
if
you only came out recently...
though, I only started dating senior year of high school.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask.
Because it's one of those, throughout high school, it's like, yeah, I had errant crushes and thought about it. But for the most part, I was thinking, I wasn't viewing relationships, and this might sound callous, but there's a logic behind it. High school is a testing ground for later relationships. Yeah. It really is.
Yeah.
High school is one of those places where, now don't go over the board with this, but there is some leeway to fuck up in high school.
Yeah. No,
I didn't view it as that. I just viewed it as like, when I get to college, then I'll focus on a relationship.
I'm still not. I
Like,
still can't get into
like
a
I'll be
focus
like,
on
right
relationship
now,
state.
high school is all that matters.
Yeah.
Schoolwork, getting shit done. So, and it wasn't until around, senior year or a little before then, I was talking to this guy that was in like an associated D&D group,
Mhm.
and we got talking to a bit, learned that he was in the same town, and then we met and we kind of hit it off. We liked each other.
Yeah.
We were completely different personalities, and even our friend who got us together, a boy Keaton, Kenny. He goes by Keaton or Kenny, so I guess I just fucked up there and said Keaty. But sorry, man. But he kind of did, and even he was like, yeah, I put the expiration on date on that relationship in like seconds. So it was one of those where it's a long shot either way. But the thing is, it was my first
I
relationship.
love the long shots, though. I love the long shots.
And it hurts because I'm a hopeless romantic. I love romance. I love being
Yeah.
sappy. I write romantic poetry.
My favorites are long shots. All of my favorite relationships.
I'm a big sappy
are,
dude. I love
knew
sentimentality.
immediately that they wouldn't work, so they always become on and off because I know that they won't work. But then when it's gone, and I'm like, but Danny, I love her.
But
I can't.
so this happened. I freaked out in my car while my boyfriend was in there. And the thing is, he had a past of like he didn't have a lot of good relationships in that sense.
Yeah.
So he hadn't had any real good relationships or any that I knew of, at least they talked to me about. But like he didn't have a lot of good relationships. It was my first relationship, so we were bound to fuck up. So we didn't communicate. There was poor communications on the other side. I still to this day blame myself more so than I should. But it's still a thing, and I still kind of get onto myself for that.
Yeah.
But we didn't communicate, and it ended up this whole big thing where we got into a big text fight. I instigated it. I was hyped up on emotions. So that relationship crashed. We're good friends now. We're on talking terms. The rest of the high school, because this was like early high school, like September-ish, like maybe mid-October, maybe.
Yeah.
So, but we...
yeah, no, I had a similar.
So it was short.
I don't want to talk about her.
It was short, but I was hung up on him for weeks, if not like a few months. I was a wreck. So that shit sucked.
Yeah. Oh my god, it's so fun. It's not even fun during the month. Nah. It's never even fun during. You get one solid good month, and then if it goes,
the month is the trial phase.
Yeah.
And the thing is, we were different people, different music tastes, different interests.
These are always technically like. Did you have yours where it was like technically like 2 to 3 months long, but after the first month it was like it was just obviously like a decline the rest of the way. It's always like that. It's always like that.
One relationship was like that, yeah.
Literally everyone I've ever had. Literally all of them.
Literally the only relationship I'd say was decently healthy and good for me was the one this past summer I had with a guy I met like at a theater camp. And like and the thing is it sucked because we met like halfway through the summer, but we spent the rest of the summer together. But
the
thing is it took us so long to realize it, but the thing is we like warmed up to each other slowly, which I think was better.
See, I don't do that. I don't think
you jump right into it.
Here's the thing. I don't think it's fair to call it love bombing because I'm not the type to get over it after like a month or two. But I do. I am when I know. And it's like love bombing. I guess that's just love straight up. If it doesn't stop after a month and it just keeps continuing.
Shit, I kicked the table underneath. I'm so sorry.
I used to be toxic as fuck, but I feel like I've gotten better as I've gotten older. Mostly because I don't date.
I was toxic,
like almost ever.
Though I was a dick. Though I'm debating with myself whether I've become more or less of a dick. All my people-pleasing tendencies of like wanting to help people, though, at least in the college sense, in the personal sense, are waning. It's weird if I can describe it, but it's one of those things where I want to help people as an almost disembodied force. I want to help people without interacting with them. It's like almost the optimistic misanthrope, where it's like I love helping, and I want to interact with people, but I want to help everyone I can, but fuck, interacting with people is so tiring.
No,
and such garbage.
Yeah, no, I get that. My people pleasing tendencies haven't waned though because I want people to like me so bad, And I'm not I don't think I'm I think the difference between you and me is I still have immense difficulty with trying to come to terms with the fact that I both am incapable of doing the type of people pleasing bullshit that I wish I could do, and I have a lot of trouble not beating myself up for that shortcoming. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I was very much, especially in high school, I was very much the type where it was like kind of the moral asshole, where it's like I didn't
Mm,
care about what people thought about me. I just did what I thought was the right thing. Now, like if like somebody did this and I was the only one who was like, "Hey, you fucked up," and everybody was thought like, "Man, you're being a dick about it," and then I was just like, "Yeah." Looking back at there's some points where it was justified and people like were just being assholes about it, but then at other points, even looking back, I recognize I could have been better about
yeah,
that, and I was
yeah,
kind of just a genuine dick about it.
yeah,
Well-meaning, but
yeah.
a
Well,
clear fucking asshole.
no, I'm kind of the same, but I'm also I was funny enough in my shadiness that I feel like I could usually, even if I was easily in the wrong, I could skew it in most circumstances just because I know how to navigate people pretty well. But I definitely had instances where one, I was a dick and I talked my way out of it. And then I had instances towards the end of high school where I was a dick and I was unable to.
Nah,
And
that's
it was like collective dicking from me and like other people, and it was just a fucking miserable mess.
that was the opposite of me because I'd simultaneously hold myself to such a high standard.
Mhm.
I still do because I like standards, but not as much anymore. But it's one of those where I beat myself up over everything immensely.
Yeah.
Like if I fucked up, even to this day, I don't lie about it. Like I'm one of those where it's like take your ass whooping with grace. But I used to be super like I'd go up to my teacher and be like, I failed. Take my life.
Oh,
Like
see, no, I wouldn't actively. Okay.
like,
In a
I was one of those
friendly
where it's like I
sense,
was just like fucking.
yeah.
I deserve to be punished probably 10 times more than I really deserve to be
I
punished.
would kind of do that within the bounds of friendships. If it was one, people I didn't like, or two, authority figures, absolutely not. I will conceal and effectively gaslight if I need to, because fuck you. I've become pretty incredible at gaslighting because of it
Dude.
too. It's well, here's the thing.
Yeah, I'm pretty good at gaslighting.
I not good.
Gaslight,
Great.
gatekeep,
I
girl
am
boss.
great. I have severe girl boss tendencies. I really do.
Fair enough.
There's something so incredibly scary about one going into that open phase and knowing that the open thing is probably going to lead you back into a closed phase. You know what I mean?
Sure, that's fair. I just more like I like relationships in the sense that it's like I already keep myself. I'm already pretty well organized, but it keeps me dependent, or at
Mhm.
least it keeps me focused on something other than myself. I
Mhm.
help a lot of people. I like to think that I'm a good friend, but and I care about people in that sense. But it's one of those being in a relationship kind of gives me that anchor of like I can at the end of the day I know that I like ultimately and in person I know that I'm there for this person. That's one thing. I love being there for people because that's what I feel like kind of like my purpose is. I need to be there for people. And I want to be there for people. Like at parties. I barely get drunk. I'll get
Yeah.
a little buzzed at some point and then come down or something. It's like I only get like a little bit because I want to still be at a manageable pace where if somebody needs help, I can help them. Because my biggest fear is like if I'm out of body or like I don't have control over my senses. It's why I hate weed. I've tried it a few times, don't like it. It makes
Yeah.
me feel weird. It makes me feel I can feel my heartbeat and I panic the fuck out. But
Yeah, I definitely relate. I never smoke ever
yeah.
whatsoever, not even once.
So it's one of those where I at least tried it because I'm like I wanted to try and see if I like it. I didn't like it, but or just nothing ever
Mhm.
happened. It was just bad weed. But it's one of those where I genuinely fear not being in control of myself because what if somebody needed me in that moment and I couldn't be there for them? That thought alone terrifies me.
Yeah, I get that. I am very much a fuck the anchor type of mindset. I'm
So
a
contrasting that statement entirely.
very much little rowboat. Yeah, no.
There's no
Fuck.
problem with that.
I
To
don't
each their own.
I don't need an anchor. I'm not. I genuinely think I think I'm not even gonna attempt dating until I'm like 22, and I'm not 21.
I wouldn't do
I'm
that.
not
I'd still
21. No,
I'd still flirt
no,
around. You gotta
no.
hone skills.
Oh, I didn't
Or-
say I wouldn't flirt. I did not say I wouldn't flirt.
Okay.
That is
Okay.
not
Fair
what I
enough.
said.
Fair enough.
I'm not.
So you're gonna have a whole phase?
No, I think I'm genuinely gonna go celibate. I'm not joking. Like
Is masturbation still counting this or no?
um
Because that's gonna hurt, man.
I kind of what? Yeah.
Yeah, you can still masturbate within realms, okay?
No, like I think I think I'm gonna make that a part of it.
Dude, that's gonna hurt. Testicular torsion.
Maybe. I mean,
Look, man, I'm not saying do
maybe
it
every
day,
now and then
night,
I'll get lucky and like bump into the corner of a coffee table and just
What coffee table is your height? Go on, tell me.
slip and fall in between the couch cushions. You know. I like doing this a lot. I like doing the prep for this. I like finding the people to interview. I like doing the whole setup. And I've enjoyed the process, and there's a lot of the process that I haven't even undergone. Like as of filming this, I haven't released a single episode yet, and I recorded my first one in October.
When do you think you're gonna release them? Like at a time scale like from today, when do you think you'd release them?
Okay, there's a lot of work that I can do over Thanksgiving. And so I have the first one fully edited. I haven't edited the second one at all, and I have to write openings for both of the episodes. I have to write an opening for yours. And then I also have to I haven't decided if I'm going to commission cover art or I'm going to try to make like a little low grade one myself, because I have a friend whose sister is a really talented graphic designer. And I tried DMing her on Instagram, but Instagram sucks ass. So they have that thing where DMs get hidden if it's not from people that you follow.
I never asked. What is the name of this podcast?
It is the 280.
The 280.
It's based on the character limit for Twitter, which I didn't know at the time is going to be a very niche reference probably this time next year.
God,
fuck you, Elon.
You don't
Fucked
make
up my
things
whole
regarding
show.
certain terms because
Well,
then they're dated and antiquated.
No, that's the thing though. Either way, like the 280 is original enough that I might not even have to delve into you can delve into a backstory that doesn't apply. And you can have nonsensical names. Like my favorite YouTuber growing up, Jacksepticeye, that technically had meaning, but like what the fuck? Like most people don't know it's like he got a cut on his eye and it got infected. It's just like, oh, there's
like
this weird
PewDiePie.
Yeah, I don't know what
his name's Felix.
I don't know what the fuck his name comes from. I don't know where the fuck he got that, but I know his brand is obviously
he's obviously doing something right.
I mean, he's popular enough that he quite literally caused the demise of like the free market of YouTube. Bridgegate. I showed a friend that video for the first time because he hadn't seen it. He hadn't heard of it. He knew of PewDiePie, but he didn't know why ads on YouTube had gotten so bad and YouTube regulations had gotten so stringent. And I'm like, let me show you something.
Huh. Oh yeah, it's rewind time.
Because it's not funny, but it is funny in the sense of there is no shot in hell that if you go into that video completely ignorant, not knowing what's going to happen, there's no point in that video where you would have predicted what he was going.
After seeing him for years, you wouldn't think that was the thing he's going to say.
Even if it was a stranger, that is like that was so out of pocket. That is the most out of pocket I've ever seen from a famous YouTuber.
And because of that,
yeah.
The platform of YouTube has changed immensely.
Yeah.
You know what I hate? I hate when going onto YouTube and getting like on my phone or something, and they have the settings because people primarily use YouTube on computer. I think still maybe they probably use it on phones more.
I do it on my TV because I have an Amazon type of TV.
Regardless,
apps,
when they make,
but yeah,
when they make
it's formatted for computers.
Like a UI change or something with like how things are set up. Or like a little system and all that, and it like translates horribly onto my phone, and so it's like I'm like, what the fuck are these like moon runes, dude?
Yeah.
And like I'm like, oh, there's this setting now. Why can't I just scrub through videos? I have to do that. It's annoying as hell. It's just like a pet peeve. Here's the thing. I'm a genetic Luddite. I cannot work with technology. I'm shaking the mic. I'm sorry.
I'm bad with a lot. I mean, you saw me. You watched me set up these cameras. Like,
No,
it
no,
was
no. It's like I
bad.
still don't know what like half the shit on my Mac does. I still don't know what half the shit on my phone does.
If I was technologically savvy, I wouldn't have bought a fucking MacBook.
No, I'm not Linus Tech Tips. But it's like I have to call my sister or my parents on how to do shit. I had to get my friend Kenny to help me how to
Yeah.
like download and import a PDF.
Okay, Jesus.
No, I suck with technology. Like, you tell me, look, I'm an outdoorsman, all right? You give me, like, a pocket knife, 2 empty cans of Monster, and, like, some paracord and say, go off into the woods and survive a week? Fuck yeah, I'm doing that. You tell me to back up a server? Hell nah, I can't do that shit.
I don't know how you're
You
doing
tell me
it,
to edit?
but you are accidentally setting up, like, you've accidentally set up every single thing that I've had on this docket. So I'm going to present my very last question, and then I don't have any structured things left, but we can go as long as we feel. This is my last actual
Like
question,
your big
though.
topic question.
My last topical one. All of these issues, political, sexual, generational, familial, etc., can easily and often become taxing as fuck. It's so easy to complain. It's so easy to complain about our current landscape. It's so easy to be consumed by our own ideals, our desires. But that also means that disconnecting from it all feels fucking amazing. Fantastic.
Take
even.
time to yourself.
I found that in my own life, it's easiest for me to disconnect via natural means. Like, I adore going outside and walking. I have a little wildlife research area pond thing over by that Walmart, on the bougie Walmart in Stilly. And I will go there, like, when I have free time and I have absolutely nothing to do. I will go there if the weather's solid, up to like 2 to 3 times. And there's this little mile-long circular trail, and I will go and I will just put on headphones, and I'll put on, depending on the weather, like during the summer, I'll literally just pop on like Crocs, shorts, and a sweatshirt, and I'll literally just walk in circles. And that is my favorite hobby in the world. That is my main hobby. And I know that you also have an affinity for the outdoors. So I'm curious, is your love of nature derived from seeking a similar type of disconnect?
My love of nature is twofold. A comes from Boy Scouts,
Mhm.
and which taught me just a greater appreciation of nature. But B, it's one of those where it's definitely it's a meditative experience where it's like I love going out into the woods and I love hiking. I love challenging myself in that sense of climbing higher and doing that.
Hiking is kind of dope.
I love backpacking so
Yeah.
much, man. I like for Boy Scouts out there will know, but Philmont Scout Ranch, if you've been, holy shit. Like the 11-day trek I went on in the northern part of the ranch, it's beautiful. When I got up Mount Baldy and like saw everything, it was just insane. It was a humbling experience.
Yeah.
So it's just I love walking, I love nature, camping, meditation. Meditation helps a lot in that disconnect, and like combining them all is just
Walking
beautiful.
feels meditational.
Yes.
Every single time I do
But
it.
the thing is, it's the same thing. It's like when I work out, I don't listen to music, and I don't do that. Same thing when I walk. Like, yeah, for some bit, like I'll listen to music, yeah, but like I try to get that stuff out of my ears, for me at least, and just get in touch with it and hear the birds, the wind rustling. I tell myself that one summer I'm gonna go and be a fire lookout, and
Yeah.
like
Like
go
a
up
national
to like
park and
national
just
park summer.
sit and observe, watch for smoke.
Sit in a tower and do that for months, and just take that time to myself in that isolation almost, and just kind of use that. I had a friend
Fire
once.
watchers are Western monks.
What?
Western monks.
Yeah.
Fire watchers. Park rangers.
Fair enough. Park rangers.
That's them. It's not the preachers. It's the fire watchers.
But in fire lookouts. But it's just like kind of getting out there. I like that, and it's an almost religious experience, putting yourself out in that. Like just
It's definitely
even
a
if you're
religious experience.
even if you're out in a tower, you're just like out there in the wilderness in the middle of it all. It's have you ever seen the movie The Ballad of Buster Scruggs? It's
No,
on
I've heard of it.
it's on Netflix, 6-part anthology.
Yeah.
But My favorite story is one, it's about this old prospector. It's like an Old West Times, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like this one thing where this prospector, this only guy, comes across this untouched valley looking for gold. And he's super respectful of nature. He knows how to survive. He doesn't take more than he needs. There's a scene where like he climbs up a tree to get eggs. And he starts taking all of them, then sees the bird that lives in the nest on the branch over,
Yeah.
and then puts like all but like one or two of them back in like the clutch. And like and when every story, when there's a new story, like it'll like be part of a book, and it'll be like a new chapter with a picture on it and like a little quote, like as if it was part of the chapter.
Mm-hmm.
And if I remember correctly, and it always gets to me, and I love this quote, and it's like saw not the old man saw the forest and saw the valley and saw not a man nor trace of the sight of man. And it's like there's just kind of something about that. And even though I have, obligations and duties to my family, the people I care about, there's definitely that part of me that's always kind of just thinking, now what if I just went off, kind of just went into the wilderness and got, stuck in it, as it were? Because there's that romantic notion I have. And it's kind of always in the back of my mind.
Like a Hatchet-esque type of situation?
A bit, yeah. Where it's just kind of like go out and immerse yourself in everything. Kind of like let go. Almost. And it's weird. It's this weird, deep thought that I kind of build in myself. But to me, that like meditation of living in it and being with it and being in nature and one with it.
Do you think that that's the divinity of death? Like that simultaneous removal of what was and the restoration of what has been, Because when you die, this becomes dirt pretty damn quickly. We become earth almost instantaneously in the grand scheme of the Earth's history. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do you think there's a sort of divinity in death in that sense?
Of course. Because even when you die, I think Carl Sagan inadvertently gave one of the most beautiful ways to talk about God when Carl Sagan says in like his documentaries about how we're all star stuff. Think about the universe. Think about how God is everything. So take that to a literal degree. God is everything. He is your rotting body. He is the stars. We've come from the Big Bang, from all the star material, and when we leave, we're still here. The part, like everything that's up in here in our mental, yeah, that ceases, but everything else in us gives to this world. And think of how unselfish and loving that is, and that we can still produce, even as ash spread, we can give our nutrients somewhere else. It's one of those where me personally, unfortunately, it's like outlawed a lot nowadays, but I would love a natural burial in the sense of wrap me in like a thin linen sheet and toss me in a 6-foot dirt hole. Truly. Because like just like to the earth you come, or from the earth you come, to the earth you shall return. There's beauty in that sense where it's like you're still giving. There's still something, even in death, there's still ways to serve and give.
See, I want to be taxidermied and used as a coat rack.
Be like that fucking like university. Fuck, is it Oxford? I'm not sure. But
I don't
be
know.
like that professor who's like taxidermy.
I want to be frozen specifically like this. I want.
If I wanted to be frozen, I'd want to be sitting down like doing this. Like in the derpiest fucking pose.
Or like full douchebag. You'll catch me like for all the
like Skyrim, like y'all like.
Or fully taxidermied where I'm sitting on my back like a flipped turtle. And I'm just like,
I want somebody like the pictures of like those scuffed as fuck taxidermy.
Yeah.
God, I want somebody to do that to me. Like I just want it to be in like I have that at my funeral for the sole purpose of making everyone super uncomfortable.
Yeah, literally decorate my carcass.
Like
decorate
staple
my
eyelids open. Like Zach from Psychic Pebbles, just like staple my eyelids open.
Remove my eyeballs.
Like
put buttons in my eyes.
Put candy in me and hold me up like a piñata. And have my relatives beat the shit out of me to get candy and prizes and heirlooms that are inside me.
Switch my ears, remove them, and put them on opposite sides.
Like switch my hands, but put them in a way that's really hard to see until you really look and go, What the fuck?
Switch the hands and the feet and put them on the wrong sides.
I want this I want the mortician who
Go full
fucks my
throttle.
body fired. Even in death, I'm fucking over jobs.
Oh man. or taxidermied, installed with a fleshlight.
No, oh god. Oh, that's crossing the line. That's like, you know, the whole thing where it's like it's weird to feel. It's like that weird feeling when you jack off to somebody that's dead. It's like that times 10. It's been a while since we've had a border change. That's why, and this is gonna sound callous, but honestly, when it comes to the Ukraine-Russia thing, that's not our concern. I feel bad. You know, people are dying. It sucks. War happens. But at the same time, it's so boring. I want new borders drawn. The last one was South Sudan in 2011. Let's change this shit. I'm so bored.
You want change of the borders just for the sake of change?
Yes!
That's pretty random.
It's pretty quirky.
That's very random. Very quirky. All right. Do you got anything else you want to touch on?
Shit, man.
I'm plumb out of my docket.
Yaddy.
If you wanna,
All right.
if you wanna mosey on down, go piss, be done with the filming. If you got
Can't
anything
talk
else?
right now. I'm making piss. Chugs water.
Okay.
Oh yeah? Land of the free? Then why can't I rinse my balls in the Burger King soda dispenser?
That is not what I meant. Okay.
Can I talk to your dog in a silly voice? Or this one. Hey math, solve your own problems.
Okay.
I'm here to make inflammatory statements on the internet and then turn my notifications off.
Okay.
Sorry, now I'm just going full shitpost territory. Now I'm just going full memes and shit.
Okay. I feel like we're good. Thank you for coming on. This
yeah,
has
man.
been
Thanks for having me.
enjoyable. Maybe some
Maybe.
recurrence
The
can happen
viewers
in
will
the
decide that.
future. Maybe so.
Maybe so.
Maybe so.
Maybe so.
For now, I think that is it for this episode. So y'all can fuck off now. Goodbye. I might be a try hard.